Hello everybody, welcome into our latest live broadcast. It's Thursday, the 16th of January, 2025. My name is CareyHolzman. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. If you're new here, welcome in. We appreciate and invite with open arms everybody who is kind. All you have to be is kind. And if you are kind, just come on into our chat room and say hello while we're live. Unlike other YouTube content creators, we very much rely on interaction from our viewers. So if you're watching while we're live here, please jump in and say hello. You don't have to say anything more than that. We'd love to know that you're out there watching, and you'll be surprised at, well, just how welcome our community will make you feel, which will probably entice you to continue with, perhaps whatever follows hello, or perhaps not. It's up to you, but we would love to see you in there. Just be nice, that's all. All right, guys, today we have a new video review for you, and this kind of blows my mind a little bit because I don't know if there's a shift in interest with regards to PCs versus tablets versus smartphones versus whatever else consumers are doing, but I have to tell you, the PC sales overall, as well as mini PC sales, do seem a bit slow. Maybe that's just a temporary thing, or maybe that's a new way we're moving forward. But the good news is this makes the manufacturers more price aggressive, hungrier to get your sale. And they'll start making offers that, well, they're pretty hard to say no to. And I've got one such offer here in front of me. The machine in front of me has dropped by over $100, and it's so new, I don't even think it's on Minisforum's website yet, but it is on Amazon. So before you take my word for it, let me just show you what you're getting for your money right now. It's the middle of January, it's 2025, and I want you to just think a few months ago, or last year, or the further back you go, how much you would have paid for in return for what you would have gotten compared to the new bar. This is setting a whole new bar for what you get for the money. This is not a basic entry-level $150 computer, and this also isn't some flagship, $1,000 high-end gaming machine. This fits into what I like to call the big middle. That's your most common purchase, is right in the middle. Just as there are 13-inch laptops that are really tiny and they're expensive, and there are 17-inch laptops that are really big and expensive, the most common sold laptop is a 15 or 16-inch. That's just what most people buy. And when it comes to CPU performance, most people are not buying the N150 or N100s. Those are very basic machines. And most people are also not buying the extreme gaming PCs, which are also very impressive, but you get what you pay for. But when it comes to how much are you getting for each dollar you're spending in return for what you're getting in return for your dollar, this is going to be a hard deal to beat. Let me just show you real quick. I'm going to say hello to everybody here in just a moment, but first I want to get your whistle wetted with this incredible deal. Minisforum does not pay us to make these videos. So I'm just telling you, if you were my client, you were running a business, or you're a home user who's not gaming, and you're looking for something that isn't just scraping the bottom of the barrel that you're going to have to replace in a year or two, and you don't have the budget or the necessity for something that's $1,000 or even $800 or even $500, this would have been a $500 computer. I'm just saying. But let me show you what it looks like today. Here's the Amazon page showcasing, whoops, bear with me for a second, showcasing the Minisforum Mini PC. The model is UN1250. This is a Core i5-1250p CPU. It's a 12-core, 16-thread CPU. It's got 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM with a terabyte of Gen 4 storage, SSD NVMe. HDMI 2.0, USB Type-C, DisplayPort, 2.5 gig built-in LAN, as well as wireless and Bluetooth, $299.99. But wait, there's more. What if, like that laptop we worked on the other day, that customer's had that laptop for 7 years, and there's less than 100 gigs of data on it. So maybe you don't need a terabyte of storage if you're like most users. So there is a version even cheaper The same exact machine, same amount of RAM, same processor, same cores, threads, but just with 500 gigs of RAM, 500 gigs of NVMe storage. That drops $20 lower to $279. Are you kidding me? Seriously, take a look at everything this has in it here. No, it's not DDR5, and no, it's not the latest Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, because quite frankly, you probably will never use that. It's adding quite a bit of expense to buy these, latest and greatest. And one of the ways you can save money is to just stay 1 or 2 generations behind, but still getting it brand new under warranty. So this way you're not waiting in line with all of the other, well, let's just call them sheeple, who have a lot of money and they can afford to buy everything new when it comes out that day and pay top dollar for it. When this initially came out, even this was $100 more. Well, close to $100 more just a few weeks ago. And today the price has dropped. I can't see it getting any cheaper than this, but you never know. Now, there is an i7 version of it for those of you who want even more power. Obviously, you're going to pay more for that. The i7-12650 is a 10-core, 16-thread processor. This has twice the amount of RAM, and it's made by the company Codlix, which is a sub-brand of Minisforum. So, in any event, this is all on the same page. You see as I click from link to link, it's 5 stars, 4 ratings. It's still brand new. What I've got for you today is a true unboxing video, in the sense that, as you can see in front of me, this is still wrapped in plastic. This is how I received it. And we're going to do a real life, I mean, this is as close as you can get to the exact experience you would have if you order one of these. How is it packed? What sort of prep do we have to do? What version of Windows does it have? Home or Pro? Also, is it 23H2, 24H2? How many updates are missing? This goes along with every single brand new machine you ever buy. There's nothing different about that. You just never quite know what the manufacturers have put on there. And the best way to know is to unbox it live, unscripted and unrehearsed, so you can see the real experience in real time. Now, with that, before we get to any unwrapping here, let me say hello. So for everyone joining us in the chat, welcome in, and a specific hello to those names I see saying hello in the chat room. And we'll start off with Katrina H. joining us, saying hello. There's Darren Gilholm and Mark Baggett. Abdul Azim Patel contributes $1.99 in Super Chat. Thank you, Abdul. Marsman50 saying good afternoon. Mark Baggett joins us. Of course, Marlena, our channel administrator, hanging out in the chat as always. Luke Greenia, our friend from Vermont, where he says it is a frosty 10 degrees Fahrenheit in Vermont right now. Ooh, yeah, that'll keep you awake. Our friend Charlie Purdy with a $10 Super Chat says, hello, Carey and Mara. And Mara, great job on the forum. Yes, we now have a forum. I'll talk to you in just a moment about that. John Paul Bacon says hello, and Peter Laycock, our Fred Buster, contributes £10. He says hello, Carey and Marlena, and hello to everyone in the chat. All the best from Bonnie, Scotland, where the temperature in Edinburgh, 45 degrees Fahrenheit or 7 degrees Celsius. So Scotland is many times warmer than Vermont right now. Let's see. Mark Gaines joins us and says hello. There's Doman 2000 and Dustin Fuller. I also see Mick Woods saying hello, and Nate Newcomer. Welcome in, guys. Kurt Schlegel and Tim Sowell says hello. Welcome, welcome. Ron Barnish says hello. Gil Garcia and Jeff Adams, as well as David Kelly Parrott. Welcome in. There's Thomas and John Williams, Larry G. And wow, we got a nice full house today. This is awesome. Timothy Rehnquist saying happy Thursday to everyone. I like to think of it as Friday Eve. Let's see. Eddie Casanova says hello. Jeff Adams says he'll stick around a little bit, but he'll watch the replay later. We appreciate you popping in and saying hello. Let's see. John Svensson saying good afternoon. Al Finesca says hello from a beautiful Lake Tahoe. I've never been to Lake Tahoe or Reno. Those are two places I always confuse the two for some reason, but I understand Lake Tahoe is beautiful. Richard DeFries joins us and says hello, as well as Johannes Jorkrig from Zwolle in the Netherlands. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that. Is it Zwolle? I've never heard of it. Expanding my geography horizons today. Viewers from all over the world joining us from everywhere from the United States and Great Britain, down under in Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, and well throughout North America, as well as Brazil, our friend John Lewis, and our friend Oystein in Norway, as well as our friend Paul Gray down there in Australia, and in the Netherlands, Amsterdam, kind of the same, right? People watching us from all over the world, which is just so, I just think that's really cool. So thank you guys for joining us and sharing our passion together. Yes, baseball catcher Bob Uecker passed away. Also David Lynch, the famous film director, but tried not, just to honor them, but not to bring the whole spirit of our video, which is exciting. We don't want to tone that down because of sadness, but to acknowledge these folks who are just the best at what they did. 3D Everything joins us and says hello. There's Planet Cryos with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Planet Cryos. Philip Jones and Calvin and Shop Persian Rugs joining us. Shop Persian Rugs with a $2 super chat. Claudio Ventura says hello from Portugal. Ah, yes, we have Portugal in the house as well. I got to add that to my repertoire when I'm mentioning off countries of regular viewers that we have, which is just, again, it's surreal. Thank you for joining us. Andy Kane says hello, and Ron Mercura, as well as Mikey. Say hello. Tim Teal, Windber, Windbar Territory. Welcome in. Some of these names are easier for me to pronounce than others, and I don't do it on purpose. I am promising you I'm doing my best. Without any point of reference, it's hard to know where emphasis is on which syllable. See, a syllable, never mind. Anthony Pete says hello. Welcome in, Anthony. All right. We have forums. So Mara decided that she wanted to set up forums where we can all hang out and talk outside of live videos. And it's all free. You don't have to be a member. Everybody's welcome to join as long as you express some courtesy to fellow board members. Just, again, we focus on the kindness. And the board looks like this, right? Where is it? Right there. All right. So up here at the top, you'll see it's CareyHolzman.boards.net. We have a link for this right in the notes below the video. It's free to sign up. There is no option for any money exchange or sale. All right. This is just literally intended to be a place where we can introduce one another, maybe share a photo of what we look like. Like when Buster sends us a picture of himself, not very many people do that. And so it's, I don't know, it makes me feel a little bit like I know him better, where you guys get to see and hear me. I can only at best see you. I can't hear you in most cases. And if you want to share a photo of yourself and kind of get us acquainted with you a little better, maybe tell us a little about yourself, what got your interest in computers, or if you're struggling with a computer problem, or whatever. We have forums for it. So you'll see here the board is general discussion, but once you sign up and create an account, you'll go up here to register your account. It's all free. And then there are numerous other subjects for which you can post under that just aren't showing right now. I'm guessing because I'm not signed in. But you are all welcome to join us. We just started this off. We already hit off with a bang with, we already have 24 posts in like 24 hours, which is, well, maybe it's 48 hours, but it's a really nice way to start, some obscure forum that we've never had until the other day. Mm-hmm. So thank you to Mara for setting all this up, and please feel free to join us in there. Maybe it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you can't sleep and you want to see what.
Click on general discussion.
If I
show you all the
Oh, there's subthreads in there. Oh, I thought it wasn't showing me because I wasn't signed in. Okay, well, yes, there's how to navigate. These are all different subjects. Of course, you can also create your own subject, right? They can create their own subject, can't they? Pretty sure you can. And it's also a great way for you to communicate with each other if perhaps you're making friends here in the chat room, but you don't feel comfortable enough giving out a private email address or whatever to a stranger online. You can also use our forums here to communicate with one another. In fact, we encourage it. Computer problems you're trying to resolve, join us in our forum and help each other out. Of course, Mara and I will jump in, but we can't be available at all times. So if you're in there and you see somebody asking something that you have an answer to, please provide the information you have. And if there's something we can help you with, don't hesitate. You know, between ourselves and the community, we want you to feel welcome, and we want you to feel as though, you know, this is a place that you belong, not a place that you're where you're just another random user online that doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sick and tired of being treated like a number by so many businesses. I'd rather go to a small mom and pop place and give them my business, even if it costs me a few dollars more, because I'd rather support a small business. And then if you go there regularly, they'll start to get to know you. They'll, oh, hey, Carey, how are you? You know, that feels pretty good for me. It feels like I'm welcomed. Well, we hope you'll all feel welcomed here. That's our goal, not only by ourselves, but by everyone in the community. And if we find somebody in the community who is not being welcoming to others, well, they may not be a part of the community very long, because it's important that we maintain a safe space outside of the world of so much hate and there's so much judgment. We want to just have a safe space. And so that's our goal here. And we want everybody, regardless of age, gender, religion, ethnicity, knowledge, with a lot of knowledge, a little knowledge, none of that matters to us so much as courtesy and kindness. It's real easy to not say anything. So if you are going to say something, we hope it is in the spirit of friendliness, okay, or helpfulness in a friendly way. And we appreciate each and every one of you, and we really enjoy seeing just how much that's taken off already, and we'll love to see that grow as well. I just saw something here in the chat. Ah, yes, Planet Cryos with another super chat. $10, he says. We just set up our basement area for TV and gaming for the 10-year-old. Now I need an alternate streaming PC. I just replaced the backlight LEDs on the TV. Might get another 4 or 5 years out of it. You know, I did see Planet Cryos posted a video about taking the backlights out of his TV, and you know, he's got his tester out and everything. And for me personally, first of all, great respect for that. Didn't even know he knew how to do that level of diagnostic. But for me, because televisions are so inexpensive and the new TVs are brighter with a better picture and they're cheaper than ever, brands like TCL are so inexpensive, you just go to the store and buy another one. I mean, the hardest part is disposing the old one. Now, obviously, if you can get something to work and you enjoy the process and you can get more life out of it and you're okay with whatever technology that was built on years before when you bought it, all the power to you. I just like to use it as an excuse to upgrade. You know, I don't want to just fix it. I want to make it better than it was before. Just like if a computer rolls in and it has a specific, you know, usually someone will say, well, take that Dell laptop the other day, needed a battery. Well, let's check the SSD while we're in here. Let's clear out the dust while we're in here. Let's make sure all the updates from Windows and BIOS updates are in there. Let's delete all the temp files. Let's do whatever we can to make it better than it was before. And if such a point that, you know, you can't get the battery or the battery's worth more than the laptop's worth, then let's use that as an excuse to buy a new one. And in this case, this was a pretty high-end laptop, the Dell XPS 13. But high-end laptops from 7 or 8 years ago are slower than mid-range laptops today. Just saying. But It's a very interesting video. If you're curious how backlights work on TVs and what their role is, it's interesting to see it taken apart like that. And I very much enjoyed watching it. So good job. And, you know, I'm surprised to hear Planet Cryo say he's needing a new streaming PC. He should have. Don't you have a bunch of PCs over there? Like, maybe I misread your message, but it sounds like you're short a PC. But wouldn't you just take one of the ones you've got now and make it a streamer? You know, that leads me to another experiment that I like to try, which is to see if we can stream from one of these mini PCs with the capture card that I have, right? Because the capture card has to go inside, but the capture card's bigger than these mini PCs. So I'm wondering if we used an external dock, if that would work. It's a little messy, and those external docks are primarily used for graphics cards. But would it work? Now, of course, you can use any PC at all to stream with a simple USB capture card. You know, I talked about the, I've got one right over here, the EVGA, let me grab it, the XR1. These are really affordable, and you don't need a big tower with a lot of, you know, power and graphics card. You could use this, for example, along with this together. You've got a streaming PC, and it wouldn't look any different than what I'm doing right now. The difference for what I'm doing right now is I have cameras. I have 4 inputs, so I can switch between the output of a machine and camera 1, camera 2, and possibly even a camera 3. So if I have Mara holding a camera or an overhead camera, plus my distance and close-up cameras already lined up, plus the video output, and then if I want to, I can add another 4-port capture card. So I can keep adding as long as I have slots, up to probably 12 or 16 inputs. I don't have that many cameras, so that won't be a problem. But if you're simply doing like video recording, as Planet Cryos does to edit later, boy, I'll tell you what, the best way I have found to do that, and for all I know, this might be how he's doing it, but I used to record in the camera and then take the memory card out and put it in the machine and then run it through a video editor. And the problem with that is I find sometimes my batteries died on the microphone, or the microphone was muted, or the camera wasn't recording. So what I do now is I load OBS, which is Open Broadcaster software, which is free. Put that on the computer. You can connect up your capture device, in this case USB, and plug the video output of your camera into this. Then you can start recording whatever is coming in through this and monitoring it in OBS. Am I in frame? Am I in focus? Do I see my audio levels moving? And record it locally to the hard drive, just leaving the camera in essentially standby mode. In doing this, you don't worry about running out of memory as long as you've got the hard drive space. You don't worry about moving the file from the camera to the PC. And you can monitor everything you're doing at the same time, so you don't find out later it wasn't in focus, in frame, or the audio didn't get recorded. You can monitor that as you're recording. Then you hit stop recording, because OBS has 2 buttons, start streaming and start recording. Hit the stop recording button and it'll save the file, and then you can put that file in your editor on the same machine and edit it and publish it, and it's so much easier than the way we used to do things. And so if it's a little tip from your Uncle Carey. And I'll tell you what, if Planet Cryos lived in Arizona, I think I'd hire that guy. I'll tell you what, I could use somebody who has that level of skill and detail. And also, he does a lot of things on his videos in a way that I've demonstrated. So he's going to do it the same way I'm going to do it. And that's the kind of person I would hire, right? I don't want to have somebody fight with me who tells me I'm doing it wrong. And so, yeah, it's too bad we're so far apart. But in any event, I'll be interested to hear what he ends up using for a streaming PC. But it doesn't take much. It really doesn't. David Graham joins us and says hello. So does Sylvan Busidal. Says hello, long time no see. Welcome in. There's Parker Morris, as well as John Jack Wilson saying hello. Welcome in, Jack. Good to see you, my friend. Mark Leibowitz has a computer repair shop there in the Chicago area, I want to say. Mark will, yeah, he says, howdy in Chicago, even though Chicago isn't in Texas. Oh, I see. He's responding to somebody else. Jim KJ3N says, I give you a picture of myself only if you want to frighten small children. Well, can we frighten grown adults with it? All right. Planet Cryos with another $10 super chat says, more or less, yes, I have another PC. I just mean I need to set one up. Needs to set up a streaming PC. But it is fun to build another one if I need or want. Yeah, sometimes it is a matter of want more than need. What would I know about that? He goes, a mini PC works too. Right on. Well, thank you again for your contribution. And do check out Planet Cryos' YouTube channel if you're looking for more content that is tech related. Dushan says hello from Macedonia. Right on. Check that out. Jose Gerardo Alvarez says hello from Baja. I guess that's Baja, California. Jim KGN3's 1 2-port capture card and 2 USB cameras are all I use for my videos and streams. Great. Yeah, this certainly isn't the only way to do it, but just as an off-the-cuff, unscripted, let me show you how easy this can get without getting complicated. Most people streaming are using one camera. You don't need more than one camera card, capture card. Let's get the Minisforum UN1250 unboxed, and let's get this real experience here in real time. I've looked online and I did not find anybody else reviewing this. I saw somebody showing product images while talking over them, so they clearly didn't have one. And then I saw a YouTube short of somebody for like a minute and a half just kind of rotating it while they talked. So it doesn't really tell you anything about it as far as any demonstration, right? We can talk the talk, but can we walk the walk? Is it loud? Is it unsightly? Is it, we could sit there and look at it all day. It's like a car, but it's another thing to drive the car. So as far as I know, we're the first ones to give you real hands-on demonstration. And this is all unscripted. It's all one take. It's all live. So what we see, whether it's a mistake on my part or damage in shipping, it's all real and cannot be edited out. I mean, it could be edited out later, but not right now. Not while we're live. Again, it is the 16th of January, 2025, in case you're watching the video later. All right, so in the box, let's go back over to here. And Planet Cryos with another $5 super chat says, I use the dual recording feature on the camera just in case something happens. I'm starting to play around more with OBS. I use a few things at the moment. Also, webcams. If you're shooting with a webcam, obviously you don't need a capture card. You just plug the webcam in your USB and you skip the capture card part. But OBS is free, and recording live, not streaming live, but recording live in OBS rather than in the camera, it negates the point of needing to record in the camera. Period. End of story. So for me, it's a much better way to do things. So I learned that back when Mitch and I were filming the interactive PC build, and I was directing Mitch, and I would have Mitch do something, and then I would play it back. Then I realized I could watch Mitch do it live on OBS while recording it on OBS instead of moving memory cards back and forth or hooking up USB cables to move the video files. And that moved our production schedule up much, much faster. And then I got to be Mr. Creative, never happy, and had Mitch do it 6 different ways, which took us forever to get anything done, but that's on me. But I could watch, I could have, say, Mitch reading the lines I wanted to read. Well, I've got a monitor right in front of me, and I can say, are you ready? Hit start recording, and then I say action. And then Mitch does his thing, and I can watch the audio, and we can do short clips so he doesn't have to memorize 3 pages of dialogue. He can just memorize a few lines, and then I can make sure we've got that good instantly as he's doing it. I don't have to play it back. I can see the audio levels. I can see we're in focus, and then we move to the next thing, and then later I just edit all that down. and I don't have to worry about any of those technical problems. I'm telling you, I was really kicking myself in the butt when I figured that out. And we've been working that way ever since. So, well, I don't do many scripted videos these days. They're very slow, takes forever. I'd rather just present to you live, and I can put out 2, 3, 4 hours a day versus a half an hour once a week or twice a week. So I can get you far more content far faster by just leaving it live, and that's what happens because there's so much information that I have to share with you. If I were editing and recording and editing videos, I would fall so far behind, and by the time the video would be released, the information's at least a week old. So anyway, that's why I do it the way I do it. Let's see. Mark Gaines with a 10-pound super chat says he gave the Project Zero build to his son for Christmas, and he loves it. So now I'm building another one. I love that so much. Let me do you a favor. First of all, that's a great gift. And second of all, it's a great excuse to, well, I guess I have to go buy some parts and do it again. I love that. That's a win-win for everybody. Okay, let me see if I can jump over to camera 2. I don't know how that's lined up yet. Not getting a camera 2. How about the close-up camera, Carey? There it is. Okay, so here's the box. This is exactly the way it ships from Amazon if you decide to order it from Amazon. So you've got your standard cards we've seen in all the Minisforum and Codlex PCs. And then there's going to be plastic wrapped around this. I keep talking about when you see a content creator making a video review on something and they are not pulling the plastic off, that means they've already done some work on it off camera. And all they have to do is tell you that. But many times they go, you know, oh, this is brand new. But in fact, without the plastic being removed, they've done some prep work off camera, or they got a used one, right? So I just sometimes, most of the time, the content creators don't tell you this, but it's something you have to watch for. Because if somebody tells you, this is brand new and I've never used it, and yet it doesn't have the plastic, there should be an explanation for that. If they don't explain that, then I don't know how much I trust all the other information. On the front, we've got 2 USB type A's. We've got an audio jack there for headphone and microphone, a power switch, and it looks like there's a little dynamic microphone there and a CMOS reset there. Coming around the sides, it's just vents so the thing can breathe. You can tell from the thickness it likely will hold a 2.5-inch drive, but I don't recommend putting any internal 2.5-inch drives in a mini PC due to the heat confinement in such a small case. Plug in a USB external drive. It's far less invasive, generates less heat. It's easier to replace and move around if there's ever any trouble. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Now we'll open it up and verify, but just based on the thickness, it looks like it would take a 2.5-inch drive. We come around the back, we have a standard barrel power connector right here. We have our HDMI port along with a Type-C USB right above that. This is our 2.5 gig LAN right there. This is our DisplayPort and 2 USB 2s. And what appears to be here a Kensington lock. And that's a steel cable that locks in that you can buy separately. You go on Amazon or wherever you want to buy it. And then you can wrap it around a table leg or something that if you're worried about somebody stealing it. But, you know, in comparison, just to give you an idea, this is the capture card, and this is a whole PC. I mean, this just does one thing, and this does whatever you want it to do. And look at the package size difference. I try to give you some perspective as to size. This is a little Gatorade, not a full size. This is just a, what size is this bottle? 12 ounces or 355 milliliters. It's about the size of the fluid of a standard can of soda is what it contains. It's a little bit taller. But overall, that gives you an idea of just how small these are. If you've never seen one in person, or if you think, well, because it's so small, it can't be that powerful, just wait. The rest of the box, we have to remove this piece here. And we should have a little cardboard piece that we can take out. And inside we've got a power brick. It's actually quite big for what I was expecting. This is similar to what you'd get with a laptop. And the wattage on this is 19 volts, 4.73 amps, 90 watts. That's actually quite powerful. Also in the box, you have your, in this case, US power plug. This is a 2.5-inch SATA plug. So yes, you obviously can, as I anticipated based on the thickness, can add a 2.5-inch drive and not follow my advice. They'll let you do it if you want to do that to yourself. If you're not adding a 2.5-inch drive, you don't need this. So it's not pre-installed. You have a short HDMI cable here. It's just to hook up a computer to a monitor, not too far away. And then you've got some screws to hold your 2.5-inch drive if you're going to use one. And then you've got a VESA mount, and this is used to attach to the back of this computer so you can hang it behind the monitor or hang it on a wall or wherever you choose to hang it. The problem with hanging it behind a monitor is it kind of looks like you have an all-in-one, right? Because you don't see the machine. But trying to access any of the USB ports would be a challenge unless you put some kind of extension or hub on it, which then, I don't know, less appealing to me. And then down here, obviously to remove this, as typical with Minisforum, these rubber feet are stuck on with adhesive. We have to pull those feet off, and then we can remove the 4 screws, and then the back comes off. The back will give you access to the Wi-Fi card, the RAM slot. I'm just looking in here. It is dual channel in there. Don't know where the NVMe is. I'm guessing the NVMe must be over on this side. We can open that up later, but for right now, let's just make sure it works. So I'm going to take all this stuff. We don't need any of this. For what we're doing today, we will just simply put everything over here. Documentation can go back in there. We'll go back over to camera 1. Here I am. And let's plug it in, turn it on, and see if it works. Sometimes I hear of people getting things they don't work at ship, you know, when they receive it, it's somehow damaged in shipping, and they get all pissed off at the manufacturer. I guarantee you, if the manufacturer knew it was bad, they wouldn't have spent the money to package it, send it to the warehouse, have it sent to you, have to pay employees to read your emails or take your phone calls, to assign an RMA or a return. It's a lot more money that's costing the company. There's not a whole lot of profit on this, as you can imagine. Company does not want you to have a bad product, but they can't control if the shipper, who's ever delivering this package anywhere in the chain from when they made it to when it got to your front door, if they're simply kicking the box across the ground or trying to make a 3-point shot from the truck to your porch. I've seen it all. Just look on YouTube and there's plenty of demonstrations. The good news is that's not normal. It can happen. But don't think for a minute that the manufacturer sent you a bad machine. That doesn't make any sense. It's under warranty. So it's not like, well, it's your problem now. No, no, it becomes their problem. And it's cheaper for them to handle that problem before it leaves the factory. And the issue is if somebody does get a machine that's not working, they'll often be the loudest on the internet, which might give somebody seeing that content the impression to stay away from a brand when the problem is that particular delivery driver who delivered it or some delivery person in the process. I want you to just keep that in mind, benefit of the doubt, because otherwise these companies would not be able to stay in business. The warranty cost alone would just close them out. All right, so I'm going to just grab a standard PC power cable, which I don't need to use the one in the box because it's just the regular one we use on desktops. I like that. I also like that it's not a big wall wart that's going to take up a lot of space, covering up other plugs on the surge protector. Little details like that matter to me. When I plug it in, it's got a blue light that comes on right there that tells us this is getting some power. And I need a keyboard and a mouse, so we're going to grab keyboard and mouse. And we'll plug that in the back because these are the USB 2 ports. Those are slower. Plugging your keyboard and your mouse into faster USB ports are not going to make you type any faster. I know that's a shock, but that's just, let's keep our USB 3 ports for fast data transfers. And let's keep our USB 2 ports for things like human interface devices like mice and keyboards, where the data transfer isn't as demanding. So if we're copying big files to an external USB, and we have a fast external USB, you want to use those blue ports. Otherwise, you're not taking full capacity of what the machine can do, and you're not taking full capacity of what the USB drive can do if you don't plug it in the wrong. If you don't plug it in the right port, it's only going to go as fast as the port allows. The port will only go as fast as the drive allows. So if everything's at the same level and they're plugged in together, you get your best performance and the best bang for your buck if you use it right. Some people pay for giganet. Some people pay for gigabit internet service, but they don't have gigabit capable computers, and they don't even know it. They're paying for something they're not fully utilizing. Cable company doesn't care. Your ISP doesn't care whether you're getting 300 megabits a second or 1,000 megabits per second. As long as you're paying your bill and you're happy with your service, they're not going to make sure you're getting the full 1,000. So, just things to keep in mind. All right, so we've got keyboard, mouse, power. I also need an HDMI plug, and then that goes into our previously mentioned capture card. And now I'm not going to plug any internet into this yet because we have to go through our out-of-box experience. Now there's other ways around creating a Microsoft account, and there's nothing wrong with having a Microsoft account. In fact, I would encourage you to have one for backup purposes, and Microsoft OneDrive and things can make your life a lot easier. However, I build customers' systems, or I build systems for customers. I can't have my login credentials on my customers' computers. It's unprofessional. It's as far as the data goes, it's unsanitary. So for me, I always log in with a local account. My customers can choose whether or not they want to log in with a Microsoft account. So the way I demonstrate here is always without a Microsoft account for those reasons. Let's turn this on and see what it does. I'm going to hit the power button. Light goes blue. We're going to jump over to the capture card on this input right here. This is what I call camera 2, which is why we got this similar screen. Now it's going to take it a minute. Here it goes. And you get your power on self-test screen with the company logo. And then it should take us through an out-of-box experience. It should not lead us right to the desktop. It should be asking us, hey, what language is this? And what are your preferences? And what username? Sometimes we've seen some mini PCs from some shady manufacturers that already answer all of the license agreements on your behalf, which is against Microsoft terms of service. And it also has to make you wonder, what else did they put in Windows? Those are the machines you really want to virus check if you ever get one, because they're going to be more likely to have that. If they come with anything pre-installed like Chrome, and it goes right to the desktop, and that's the critical part of this. It should not be going right to the desktop. It should be welcoming you to Windows and then asking you about where you're located, what languages you prefer, what languages on your keyboard layout that you prefer. It should be a brand new experience, right? Tailored to you. Then it goes to the desktop from that point forward. So we go through this in a very standard way. English United States is the default here, which is what we want. And we're going to choose United States as our country or region. Once again, with the keyboard layout being in the US, that's the default. I say yes and skip any second keyboard layout. Again, my customers can do that themselves. Down here, I'm going to say I don't have internet down on this corner. And I have to tell it twice. It says continue with limited setup is basically like saying, are you sure? Okay. Then we get the license agreement, which we have to accept. And enter the username. I'll just put user in here. Enter with a blank password. Leaving the password blank means it'll just take us right to the desktop. Now, these are the privacy settings. I like to turn everything off but the location. That way the date and time will stay accurate throughout the year, throughout the years as it synchronizes. Every clock loses well, not every, pretty much any clock a consumer will buy will lose seconds and then eventually minutes over time and has to be adjusted. Or when daylight savings time hits, you have to, make that adjustment manually on an analog style clock, usually. So by doing it this way, that just uses the internet time server and it just synchronizes itself, and it's just out of sight, out of mind. It handles everything for you. And that's why I leave location settings on. Also, if I'm looking for a restaurant or something close to me, I can just type it into Google and it knows where I am within a few miles, right? It's not so specific. It will be on your cell phone, but on your computer, it's not that specific. And yeah, as we've answered those questions now is when Microsoft customizes its desktop and the layout based on how you answered those questions. So if you get a mini PC from a manufacturer, like from, let's just say, AliExpress, there's not a lot of recourse if anything goes bad. There is some, but there's not much. And there could be a reason why they're not, if you're buying something on AliExpress, that it's not available in the US. It may not meet certain requirements. And you're on your own if you bypass, the regulations the government has put in. Now, sometimes government puts in regulations that have nothing to do with you or I, but have to do with tariffs or, not really tariffs, but restrictions on certain goods going to certain places. And then if a company violates those sanctions, that's the word, then the United States will say, well, if you can't play both sides of the field, if you're gonna sell products to our enemies, then you won't sell products to us. Which doesn't mean the products are bad, and it doesn't mean that they're protecting the consumer. So everything I say, if you want to look at anything from a certain viewpoint, I suppose you can always find exceptions, and hopefully you understand the gist of it, in that when you buy from a company like selling on Amazon, let's just say, you always have Amazon's return policy. So at least if it's an Amazon Prime purchase, do pay attention to that. Sometimes when the prices are really cheap, that's because it's it's a hot potato someone's trying to get rid of. And Amazon will say, it's a third-party seller. It's all on the page. You just have to read it. Okay, so it looks like we just booted in 4K, which is really, really super tiny. Let's see a few things here. First of all, let me see if I can adjust the size of the icons here. I need by scale at about 250% at 4K. That makes it look more like 1080. That's easier for me to read. We'll right-click on the Start button. We're going to go to System, and we can verify what we've got in here. This is a 12th gen i5-1250p. It's idling at 1.7, but it will turbo up to 4.4, I believe is what it is. We have 16 gigs of RAM, which, looking through the holes in the bottom, looks like 2 sticks of 8 that are DDR4. This is Windows 11 Pro, not Home. Windows 11 Pro. 22H2. So that would tell us we're 2 versions behind, 23H2, 24H2. So this may be that it's a closeout. Maybe that's why it's so cheap. It's still brand new, but we're up to 15th gen right now. If you want to buy the latest and greatest and spend 3 times more, you can. If you need DDR5, you would not notice a difference in DDR5 on a processor of this frequency and ability. So it would just be wasting your money. Just so you know. You might say, well, that's not the latest. Well, the latest wouldn't help you, because this would be your, if you put DDR5 in this couldn't take advantage of it any more than it's already doing DDR4. You've already hit your limit. That's it. So when it comes to that, that's not necessarily a bad thing. This is what's going to keep from nickel and diming you over ownership. You can just leave this exactly the way it's configured and not have to worry about doing upgrades. Now, Minisforum often does sell bare bones versions of their machines. I don't know what you can get at this price point bare bones. That might be a little newer, but then you'd have the added expense of buying your own RAM, buying your own storage, and providing your own operating system, downloading the drivers, and doing all that work. This is a ready to eat out of the package, you know, expression, ready to eat, meaning it's plug and play. You take it out, it's ready to roll. We've got our 1 terabyte drive here. If we go to properties, we can see who makes it under the hardware tab. It's a Kingston. That's typically what we see in these. Kingston makes these drives very inexpensive for manufacturers. So you're not going to get a really fast drive, but it's also not a really slow one. Usually what we find on these Gen 4 Kingstons is they run about, on the low end, they'd be running around 3,800, and on the high end, 7,300 megabytes per second. This should fall somewhere in the middle, around 5,000 if it's working properly. We have seen some Kingstons that weren't working properly, and when presented to the manufacturers, they almost universally just replace the Kingston drive with the exact same one that runs at the 5,000 speed they likely are going to run at. You can buy faster Gen 4 drives and upgrade, but they generate more heat, and you need to keep in mind, how much heat are you putting in this little tiny box? And how many milliseconds is that actually going to make in real life usage? Probably not noticeable. It's a symptom of human behavior I call chasing benchmarks. It's nothing the business world typically does unless there's a very specialty application where those milliseconds can be adding up to dollars, and those dollars add up to be thousands of dollars. Then it makes sense for your IT department to focus on that. But otherwise, usually the slowest point of the computer is the end user. That is usually the case. Well, you're waiting to type, or maybe you're speaking to it, waiting for it to dictate. The length of time it takes you to speak, the computer could already have a task done. The length of time it takes you to type out a sentence, or even 2 words, the computer is already done. So that's why I say for most people, it's the people we need to upgrade, not the... It's sort of like somebody wants the fastest car they can buy. And it's, in my experience, when I'm out driving around Phoenix, the people who own the fastest cars, when they get out of the car, they're really slow. They move about this fast. I see a lot of, and no offense to anybody, I'm just saying, Corvettes are a lot of money, and sometimes, you know, we might want a Corvette our whole life, and finally, when we retire, we get that dream car we've always wanted. So if you're ever driving next to a Corvette, what do you think the odds are it's a gray-haired old man driving that car? That gray-haired old man wanted that car his whole life, and he finally got it. That is a fast, nimble car. But the old man, not so much. Right? Sometimes the littlest people want the biggest cars. Big lifted truck, and a little 4-foot woman comes out of it. So I see that with computers. I see people going just way over the top. And they couldn't use all that power if they wanted to, other than running benchmarks on it. That's pretty much the most difficult thing to ask the computer to do. Now, if you've got the budget and the time and that's what you want to do, I have no problem with that. It's just not a practical thing to do. And this machine here, what I like about it so much is it's a very practical machine that is a bargain of a price. You're getting so much for your money. I challenge you to find any computer that meets or beats these specifications at this price from any manufacturer. Show it to me, because I'd love to see it. Again, Minisforum isn't paying me to make this video. I'm simply advising you as I would advise a client. If I think something is junk, or if I think something should be avoided and for what reasons, or I think it's not a good value. This came up earlier. Doug Betts, our friend on Live Windows Training with Doug Betts, was asking about the Samsung 990, and he thought that I like Samsung. Like, don't you like Samsung? And I said, well, I don't like everything just because Samsung makes it. I wouldn't buy a Samsung refrigerator, from what I've heard. I've never owned one, but I wouldn't buy one. And, you know, I like the Samsung 970 EVO and the EVO Plus. I like the Samsung 980 Pro, but not the EVO. And I don't like the 990 at all. It's just, to me, a terrible price proposition for a feature and a benefit that I don't game. So, you know, having something run Gen 5 times 2 instead of Gen 5 times 4 doesn't make any sense to me. And especially the price Samsung wants, especially when it came out, was so much more money than their competitors. So there are some manufacturers like Western Digital's another one. I don't like any of Western Digital's NVMe drives save for one. the SN850X. You don't see me installing them anymore, anything other than an SN850X. We never put in a 770 because there's no value there. I like Feijing, but I don't like everything Feijing makes. I like the S880. So I think it's important people not oversimplify the recommendations. If I like this Minisforum computer, it doesn't mean I like all Minisforum computers, or that I like this one for a specific reason and I like a different one for a different reason. So it's all in context. But with that, let's see how many updates are missing on this. Now that we've logged in, you know, when we're getting logged in, we've gone through the whole out-of-box experience. Let me plug it into the network, and then we'll go check for updates. And I suspect we're going to have a lot of updates on this because we're missing 23H2 and 24H2. Now these will eventually come in the background. If I'm selling you a computer, that computer is going to be fully updated. I'm not going to just sell you a computer and go, here, you update it. This could take hours. And if anything goes wrong during the updates, you're going to call me with a warranty call. This is a bad experience for the customer, which is not good for me and my business. Now, I'm also not selling 1,000 of these a week. I couldn't keep up. So I understand why the big system integrators and manufacturers, they have a system image and they just put that on all the machines right down the assembly line. Microsoft comes out with updates constantly, plus there's driver updates from the network cards, the sound card manufacturers, the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth drivers. Of course, that's got to get updated even while it's being manufactured. That's just the odds. I mean, that's just the frequency of updates. But these big updates, the Windows 22H2, 23H2, 24H2, those only come out once a year, typically in October. So 22H2 is pretty old on here. Typically, I'm expecting 23H2 or 24H2 being installed, not something as old as 22H2. On the other hand, if you tell me you're going to take $50 off of the price of this, which this was, as I mentioned, it was somewhere between $50 and $100 more a couple weeks ago. So if you told me, well, since you have to upgrade to 23H2 and then the 24H2, we'll knock a little more off the price. Oh, now we're talking. All right. If I'm paying top dollar, I expect that to be done. So again, it's not a blanket always like or always dislike. It's under certain circumstances and values. So let's take another look over here at the desktop and let's visit Windows Update and let's see what it says. See what happens. You can see we've got the little monitor down here showing our connection. We should be connected at 2.5 gig. We go to Network and Internet Settings. We'll click on Ethernet, and it should show 2500, 2500. It does, so we do have a 2.5 gig Ethernet. We can look in the Device Manager and make sure that there's no missing device drivers from the manufacturer. That's unacceptable. And I don't recall ever getting a machine from Minisforum that ever had an error or a missing driver. But we have seen that from other manufacturers, lesser known, typically budget manufacturers. But you can still have a budget and still get a quality machine. As you can see here, we'll hit Windows Update, and I like to turn this feature on. Let's check for updates. And while we're waiting, I like to go to Advanced Option and turn on this option, and this option. And then you might watch for optional updates. Those will be future drivers, but that's 0 at this time, meaning that when Minisforum set up this image, they had all the latest drivers on it. It's already downloading in the background and wants to restart. And once it rechecks, there may be updates to drivers that it just said 0, but when we reboot and allow it to check for updates, it may find a bunch of updates to change that 0 optional updates to like 3 or 4. That would be expected on something that has a version of Windows this old on it. And updating the Windows is critical because you don't want to be, let me jump over here to camera 1. You don't want to be open to all of the security exploits, which is why Microsoft keeps updating it. People keep complaining about how difficult it is. You know, Microsoft has made it difficult to do some things like home networking, but it's like complaining that your car has to have locks on the doors. I mean, It's there for you. And if you think it's a hassle, I gotta get my key, or I gotta get my key fob, and I gotta unlock my door every time. What a hassle. It's also a hassle for the criminals. It makes it a discouragement, a deterrent from wanting to break into your car. In much the same way, if you insist on running an old version of Windows that isn't supported anymore, you might as well just hand the thieves your wallet. I mean, why even use pockets? Just stick the money to your forehead and walk around if that's all you care. Microsoft is not doing these security things for you in the sense of making your life easier. They're trying to make your life safer, and they're trying to prevent the likelihood of you becoming a victim because you don't know any better. And it's because those who don't know any better come to the conclusion that I don't like Microsoft because this is all too difficult. It's frustrating for me as a tech because they don't understand it's difficult for the thieves. The easier you make it for you, like don't lock your doors and don't roll up your windows and don't use pockets. Just wear every bit of jewelry on you at all times. See what happens. Flaunt it as much as possible. Once you've exposed what you have, you'll attract attention from others who want to take it from you. And Microsoft is constantly battling this. So is Linux, and so is Android and iOS and Mac OS. There's viruses across the board. And we want to make that as difficult as possible. And you've got to constantly keep up with their techniques. That's why this is all being done. That's why 23H2 came out. That's why 24H2. That is the main reason these updates come out. It's not Microsoft paying developers millions of dollars a year to go through tens of thousands of hours of testing and development costs just to give it away for free because they're nice guys or they want to irritate you. So there is an oversimplistic misunderstanding, just fundamental misunderstanding of why the security settings that people find frustrating are put there. So the criminals find it frustrating. This is protecting you. Okay. I am battling the folks that they don't understand, they oversimplify, and they, instead of asking questions like, why is it this way, they make false, uneducated statements, I mean, very clearly uneducated statements that Microsoft sucks for doing this, when in fact it's the other way around. I'm not a Microsoft shill, I'm a tech. Do you think I want to get calls from people who get their identity stolen all the time? I mean, I'd rather not. And for that reason, we want to make sure we always have all the latest updates on the machine before we even start to use this. When you buy a brand new pre-built machine, like I said, I take care of this for my customers. But if you go to Dell or HP, you don't know how long those machines are sitting on a shelf. It's going to be missing updates. And before you start getting comfortable with it, get those updates installed first and just plan for your first day. Don't try and do too much. Just plan for your first day to be set up. Then the next day, plan to configure it, because this could take hours. Let me jump over and see where we're at on this. It's back to the desktop. So while I'm talking, I want to encourage you, if you have any questions, comments, ask me in the chat room, because when I go check for updates here, we're going to be waiting. And during the waiting period is when I like to interact with all of you. You can see all of these software drivers here. Everything that says Intel. There's also an update to Windows 10 here. And if we go under advanced, we might see some things there now that weren't there before. So far we're still at 0, but I do expect this will change. So I'm going to go back. And this is downloading and installing. And while it's doing that, let me come over here and take a look in the chat room and see if there's any questions I can answer for you guys. In fact, I think I can put camera 1 back up, and we can do both. Put it down here. We'll keep an eye on that so we can reboot as soon as it's ready to reboot. Fred Vandermeulen said that if you had a dual SSD, Windows 10 and Windows 11, do you also need 2 protection? Yes, yes. That's why one of the reasons I discourage having dual boot. Number one, you should have no reason for it, right? Anything that runs in Windows 10 is going to run in Windows 11, but then you've got to do twice the updates and twice the maintenance and twice the antivirus and twice the cleanups. It's doubling the amount of work it takes to maintain that computer. So unless there's a really good reason, and I mean a good reason, my advice is one operating system per computer. If you must have a Windows 10 and a Windows 11, I strongly advise you buy an older computer for Windows 10, use your newer computer for Windows 11, and that way if one thing breaks, both things don't go down. If your Windows 10 computer breaks, you still have your Windows 11 computer. Or if your Windows 10 computer gets a blue screen, bad driver, virus, whatever, you've only temporarily got it down, versus if you put all of your eggs in one basket. Lost my voice. All of your eggs in one basket is an expression for a reason. And it looks like I need to adjust my power settings because the screen just went dark on me here. So let me do that real quick. Give me just a second here. Again, any questions, please do ask in the chat. Thank you, Fred, for your question, by the way. I am very much against dual booting. That is really not something for the average user, and very difficult to justify when computers are so inexpensive. Turn off the display never. Okay, so the settings are already set to never. That means that was a video driver that installed, and had I just been patient, the video would have come back. So that's was a false conclusion on my part. Out of the box, a lot of times these have a sleep setting. I'm surprised this one has set it to never. And I always forget I should check that on a new machine. So as soon as it happened, my first thought was I didn't check it. I'm glad I checked it, now I know. And that was a video driver when it blanks out and comes back like that. Which is to be expected during a Windows update, by the way, not just in general. It should be happening when an update's happening, if that update involves the graphics card, which it likely just did. Okay, let's see. Jim KJ3N said, my Asus laptop came with Windows 11 Home, and drive encryption was partially enabled. If I had signed in with a Microsoft account, it would have turned on full encryption. I don't know that that's how that works because I don't use it, but I do know that as long as you signed into your Microsoft account, a copy of your encryption key is also associated to your account. My issue is with people who will intentionally turn on encryption and then not make a copy of their key. And at that point, when things go sideways, they pretty much lose all their data because they've locked themselves out of it. These defaults are there again for your protection, and the Microsoft account probably doesn't turn the encryption on until it knows it's saving a copy of the key, which it can't do without a Microsoft account. Like it can't know that you did it. For all it knows, you clicked OK and never really followed through. So again, Microsoft is protecting you here, whether you like it or not. Also, somebody of that knowledge level that would be aware of their encryption, as most customers are not, would know enough to turn it off, to go and check and make that decision knowingly and willfully versus finding out after the fact. But again, so long as you have that Microsoft account, your encryption key is backed up whether you like it or not. And that has saved the bacon of many of my clients who use Microsoft accounts. So well, it may be painted in a negative way from one person's perspective. It's painted in the best thing since sliced bread from another person's perspective. And from my perspective, it's just type the word encryption down in your search bar and see if it's turned on. I mean, it's not rocket science. And choose whichever you prefer. Nobody's a victim of any default settings unless you're just not educated to know to look for them, or you don't care, in which case it's not a point. I'm trying to think of, there was a third point I was going to make about encryption. You don't know, you don't care, or maybe just you do care, but nobody made you aware that this is something you need to check on a new machine. Now, if you build it yourself, you know, these are settings that one would expect a system builder to customize and choose their preference no differently than you would any of the other Windows settings. I don't know why we focus on one setting and not all the others, but it's whatever any particular person finds annoying to them that another person finds as life-saving. So I don't necessarily agree with the perspectives of some viewers. However, I don't make my living from people who, generally speaking, have the level of knowledge that they wouldn't need to hire me to begin with, if that makes any sense. So they often will care about things that I don't, because it doesn't play a role in my day-to-day business. There are always exceptions, but I don't paint that as being a positive or a negative thing so much as a thing. So for better or for worse, it's just really how you choose to look at it. Hugh Pell said, for 57 years as a field tech, I still run into situations I've never seen before. What computers were you working on 57 years ago? 1967, what kind of computers were you working on? I'm curious. First IBM PC didn't come out, home computer, till 1981. So those are what we work on. Evolutions of the original home computer. Anything prior to that would have been, you know, Atari, Commodore, Apple, Zenith, Sinclair, Timex, which are very different animals. And then if you go back even before that and you get into System 36, System 34, those are very different animals. So it's like saying, you know, I used to work on horse and carriages and now I work on automobiles, and boy, has it changed. Like, these things don't, they have wheels, but what did you work on 57 years ago that was a computer? And what relation do those computers have to home computers? Because I'm confused. I've been in this business since 1602. I have to tell you, lots changed. I don't think it's the same business. That's just my perspective. No insult is meant in that. I'm just trying to be funny. Old Man 55 said mine was 1980 CNC mills. Yeah, that's not even close to what we're working on the last 30 years. I mean, I'm sure there might be somebody out there that does that, but that's not a very common position that's anywhere near the amount of people needed for IT support in corporations and businesses and homes. Mark Leibowitz said, I've encountered one reason for dual booting now, the need some people have to show off, but I can't be bothered with that one. Well, you know, so Mark runs a repair center, or he runs his own repair shop in Chicago. But I have to say, if the customer's got the money and they want to pay me twice as much, twice as often, I will try to talk them out of it because I'm not in it for the money. I don't necessarily think I would say no, but likely once the customer hears how much money it's going to cost to set that up and then how much it's going to cost to maintain it, I can't understand why they'd say okay unless it was something that we're going to take on themselves. At which point, you know, it's not me telling them no. Fred wants to know, what was your favorite PC that you built? You know, I don't necessarily have a favorite. It's like asking which of your children are your favorite or which of your pets. I think that they each have these unique personalities. There are some that were more frustrating to me to work on, but that's usually, you know, a cooler mounting technique is something I don't like, or case fitment issues or cable management issues. But overall, like the latest computers I've built, I like them, all of them. Whether it's the streamer we use, which is the AMD 7950X3D, whether it's the Asus ProArt Z890 we literally just finished, and Mara uses to do work now every day. She's relying on that machine. It's whisper quiet, super fast. She absolutely loves it. Or if it's any of the machines you've seen me build, from the Minisforum, the BD795M, that really bizarre, weird motherboard, I can really see where that could be a solution. But also, when we look at the Thermaltake builds we've done, the Corsair builds, the NZXT builds, we've got a build coming up with a Cooler Master H500M. I already know it's going to be a great build. The Project Zero builds, they're all super fantastic, and especially given the price. You know, even looking at the Big Beast build, that was a 29-hour build video. That's 1 day and 5 hours to build this system that Doug Betts has and has paid for. It's his computer that he uses for streaming. It's 2 systems in 1 case. And that was a day and 5 hours. Like, if you played every video back to back, including the interaction I'm having with the audience, which makes up probably 60%, that's still a massive amount of investment in labor to get everything pieced together. Plus, you have almost quadruple the cable management in a system like that, because of just the fans in the front alone are 2 cables each times like 8. Plus there's like another set of fans on the back, plus your cooler. Yeah, there's a lot of cable management in there. But when it's done, it's not only stunning and unique, it's also very, very fast, extraordinarily capable, and will likely be capable for Doug until 2037. You know, like, that computer is going to last a very long time. And in between now and then, somebody like Doug, who's you know, really into tech, might want to upgrade it just because he can. But even now, it would be too soon to upgrade that, because it's such a powerful processor we put in there. To get something equivalent would be a shame that he didn't really get to fully utilize the investment he made. So if I were Doug, and what I would do is I would leave the machine as is until such a point that there is a chip and motherboard as a worthwhile replacement to the main board. Now, on the micro ATX side of it, the small secondary board, that's less important. But even that is still, I think, 12th gen, just like this brand new machine is. Like, somebody would be buying this, you'd expect to get at least 6 to 8 years out of this. So even that, I'd go 5 or 6 years before I would even upgrade it to make it worth my while financially, that I got my money's worth before I switched it. But he wouldn't need to switch it because it failed. He's not going to need to switch it because it won't do something. He'll just want it to go faster or have more storage. That's pretty much, or just because he wants to. And that's the beauty of the systems that I'm making, is you have all of these options where you're not forced into a replacement, not usually, in that all the parts are modular anyway, and you can easily shop around for not only replacement parts, but upgrade it at the same time if something breaks. No matter how well you build something, you can't prevent somebody dropping it, spilling something on it, clicking on a link they shouldn't have clicked on, or even a power spike from a weather event or a car crash that hits a power pole. And then all of a sudden everything plugged in gets a big old shock and damages it. That's not a fault of the builder or the parts, but it's rare. It does happen, but it's not normal. It's like most of us probably won't experience that. And if we do, not more than once. Unless you live in an area where that kind of thing happens often, which in 2025 in America, not quite sure those areas exist anymore. And if so, it'd be pretty rare that you even live there compared to the rest of the population. So, you know, with all things, there's no absolutes, but the exceptions are so minimal as to not have to worry about it. You know, wouldn't be anxiety. Wouldn't need to prepare for that outside of just regular backups you should have regardless. There's our friend Mitch Morrison. He says, why did the lion cross the road? To get to the other pride. Oh, man. Mitch will join us in the chat from time to time and share with us a terrible dad joke. And I sometimes feel a need to respond with a terrible dad joke of my own. So, do you know why people do not eat clocks? It's too time consuming. Wah, wah. This painful joke was brought to you by nobody who in their right mind would sponsor that. Was it the one I heard the other day? Do you know this pen writes upside down? And a bunch of other words. All right. What are we doing here? Still installing? Okay, go ahead and just keep an eye on that. And let's take a look here in the chat, see if I've missed any other comments, questions. Luke Greenia says he absolutely loves his Project Zero build. I get so many compliments on it. I am so glad it went to somebody who appreciates it and takes care of it. Tickles me. Ken Musetic says, I just received a Minisforum UM760 Slim for $319, and it's a great little machine. Trying to remember the specs on a 760, but again, you pay a little bit more. I expect it's probably a little bit more powerful. There may not be a huge difference in performance between the two. You can almost always tell by price. Generally speaking, when you're talking about a legitimate manufacturer, when you pay more, you get more. And if you pay a lot more, you get a lot more. You pay a little tiny bit more, maybe you get a little tiny bit more. Unless something's on sale, limited edition, things of that nature. Limited editions can be very expensive because, you know, it's got an Avengers logo, you know, it's got some trademark logo that they have to pay licensing on. And some people see value in that. Other times you might have older inventory or sales, which will make the product sometimes cheaper than it costs to manufacture it, but they don't usually sustain that very long. If you can get in on one of those deals, you get a really good bargain, potentially. But if you can just go to the site like Amazon and just buy this, and you don't need any coupon codes, and you don't have to worry about, you know, any sort of dance routine that has to be followed for you to get, give us your email and sign up for our newsletter and do this and do that, and in return, then we'll give you that. Like, that's well and good for what that is, right? But wouldn't it be better if that was just the price for everybody at any time? And that's what it is right now today on this machine here. I can't speak to what inventories are available. I can't speak to if the price will go up or down in the future. I don't know. I can only tell you of the moment, this is what's going on. And that's the other benefit in these live videos, because if I were filming this to edit and then publish later, this could already be sold out or the price could change, negating the whole point of ever publishing the video. So this is exactly why I do it this way. So you who are watching live get up to the second current information and have every opportunity to act on it. So there's no like, oh geez, I wish I would have known about this a week ago. Like, that'll be on you, not on me, because I put the information out. If it took you a week to get to it, well, hopefully you'll catch us live next time so that won't happen to you again. Easy Otter is asking Mara if she's ever been to Comic-Con. Yeah, she's been to Comic-Con. Stan said he worked on a CP967 general purpose computer used in the United States Navy sat-nav system. Holy cow, that's some pretty specialized equipment. Yeah, I imagine if you're in the military, you probably worked on some stuff, but that has like no relation to the stuff we work on today or that we've worked on in the last 30 years. But it's interesting to me, like I say, because you can say tech, but what a tech was in the 60s is very different than what a tech is today. Like in the 60s, you needed to have an academic education. Today, you just call yourself a tech. That's your qualification. Anybody can literally say, I'm a tech. There's no degree in it. There's no required certification. And the public is not aware of any household certification to look for when looking for a tech. If you said, hey, I'm A+ certified, the average user doesn't know what that means. That's completely valueless to them. And if you know what A+ certification is as a tech, you know that's pretty much that means you know how to turn the computer on and plug it in. That means you have the very lowest baseline of knowledge. So I don't give it much credence of importance. But how do you tell the wheat from the chaff? If you're an employer, you might require an A+ certification to be considered on for employment in a tech department. Because so many people claim to be techs, you don't want to hire somebody who speaks all the right words but just can't perform. And the A+ may be required by an employer to at least reassure them that you have at least the basics. Peter VZ with a €1 super chat. Thank you, Peter. David Graham with a $2 super chat says, it's dinner time and my sister's birthday today. See you later. Well, happy birthday to your sister. Enjoy your dinner. Thanks for hanging out with us. And thank you for the super chat. Phil Stodd said, after World War II, you'd be an electrical engineer if you sold light bulbs. Yeah, well, that's funny because it's probably true. It's before my time. Mitch Morrison said he grew up in Rochester, Michigan. I feel for you. I think one of the wealthiest people in the United States from Michigan, and specifically from Rochester, but just Michigan State, is Madonna. I think she is the wealthiest person from the state of Michigan. And it just happens to be the same place Mitch Morrison is from. Maybe Mitch Morrison is Madonna in disguise. Get that thought out of my head. Mark Leibowitz says, back when Boston still had a computer museum, one of the exhibits closest to the entrance was a 1950 Sage system assembled around a compact Desk Pro 286. And the plaque said the United States Air Force used that Sage till 1983. And that also sounds true. Right? They still used a lot of 1960s technology in the 1980s space shuttle program. Mac Cameron says, I'm trying to stay up to snuff with tech because I have a grandkid coming over and I don't want him making fun of me. Kids are kids. I don't worry too much about what kids think. Dan Nilsson. Oh, he's just laughing out loud over there. What else? What else do we have? If I've missed any of your comments or questions, if I've not read them aloud, it's because I haven't seen them. You'll need to repost them again for me. I can only go back so far. And sometimes questions are asked and I've answered them and I don't realize that it was asked. It just was a coincidence. And then I get questions, I'm like, why is this person asking this when we just talked about it? That's the downside of live video, right? Is the timing between when you're, that's weird. We just suffered an OBS disconnect here for no apparent reason. That hasn't happened in a while. So if you just saw the screen stop or freeze or become unavailable or buffer, that's something in between us and YouTube happened. Our network stayed up the whole time, but OBS had a hiccup. Hopefully that won't happen again, but just so you know, it's not on your side. Everybody would have seen the same thing when that happens. Dennis Kine joins us and says hello. Nick Poverman said he's been working in the industry over 25 years without certification, 7 years at his current job. He's got his experience starting in the 1990s when he was working for Pioneer Electronics car stereo tech. He's now a computer tech. Yeah. It was pretty common for audio techs to move into computers. Easy Otter said, when I'm watching YouTube live streams, I get the oh snap, something went wrong. It's not the YouTube video that's causing that, it's the YouTube live chat. There's a known memory leak in the browsers that when you're watching with live chat turned on, it fills up your memory and then it causes the browser to crash. And you can just simply hit the refresh button and everything comes back up again. I don't know when or if Google's ever going to address this, but it's happening to all of us. The frequency it happens is different. For some of us, it may happen once or twice or more in a live stream, and for others, it doesn't happen at all, but then it may be the opposite on the next live stream. If you do not engage in the live chat, if you shut live chat off, that should solve that problem. It is a live chat related memory leak. That's all we know at this time. Brad Revel says hello. Welcome in, Brad. There's Thomas Backenstow joining us. Bill Stodd said the oldest computer he ever worked on still had core memory. Core memory? He says 2 8K mag core memory modules. Yeah, I don't know what that is. That's got to be before my time. Sometimes people fall behind in the live stream and they don't realize that they're watching, you know, something we did 20 minutes ago. They think they're watching live. So you can always check to make sure you're watching live by both refreshing the page and making sure that little progress meter that's underneath the video is all as far to the right as it can go. The time here in Phoenix for your purposes of synchronization is 2:33 p.m. 14:33 Thursday, January 1st. January the 1st. It's the first month. January the 16th, 2025. It's Thursday. It is 2:33 p.m. here in Phoenix right now. January 1st. Live and unscripted. What do you want me to tell you? I think we can restart this now. So let's just go over here. Like I said, we're going to be doing this for a while. And in exchange for that discount, I'm okay with it. If I'm paying twice as much and I have to do this for the same hardware, no. So it's all about value for me, where there is practical value. If you don't want to be bothered with having to update, make sure you get something newer and make sure you expect to pay more for something that's the latest technology. This is new, don't get me wrong. When I say newer, I'm referring to the age of the technology that's in it. You can go on Amazon right now, and there's plenty of 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th gen CPUs. In fact, the 14th gen CPUs are just expensive as they've ever been at $433 at Amazon for 14900K. I mean, that's not exactly chump change, and that doesn't cover your motherboard, case, power supply, storage, RAM, or operating system, or cooler. That's just one piece. And it's still very expensive. So for anybody who turns their nose up at it and says, oh, that's so last year, please. I have customers running 8th gen machines that are fully Windows 11 compliant and have no reason to upgrade those or replace them anytime soon. Now, anything older than that, you go back, you know, essentially 10 years. By the time Windows 10 expires on October 14th of 2025, those 7th gen and older machines will be 10 years old. I mean, when you consider whatever you paid for that, even if it was a top shelf computer, your price per month, your price per day, you got your money's worth. Treat yourself to something nice. It's a great excuse. You know, maybe I wouldn't go out to a restaurant and eat and treat myself to a nice dinner if I wasn't hungry. You understand what I'm saying? Like, well, I'm going to eat anyway. Maybe I'll have a nice meal. I don't have to have every meal be a nice meal, but I got to eat anyway. So why not every once in a while treat myself? That's what I'm saying to you. If you've had a computer that's 10 years old or older, treat yourself. And you don't even have to buy anything expensive. You know, treat yourself to something fresh, okay? That's all I'm trying to say. You can go to the produce section and say, well, you know, I've got the celery in the refrigerator that's been in there 2 weeks. I could eat it. Or I'll treat myself and spend a couple of bucks and get some fresh. You're not alive forever. Try and enjoy what you can responsibly so that you still have money to pay the bills tomorrow. But at the same time, you don't necessarily have to sacrifice every single day of your life. And if you do, then you sacrifice a little bit more to just squirrel away a nickel or a quarter. And within a couple of weeks' time, you can buy that fresh produce and it's not gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's all about our priorities. And sometimes it's a difficult thing to justify the cost, but you don't have to buy a $500 computer. You know, there are perfectly fine budget level mini PCs that start at $150, and you may not even need that. Quite frankly, if you're just a consumer and you're not a creator, you can likely get away with a $50 tablet. That's all you need. And for that matter, you might just be able to get away with your phone and don't need anything more than that. I see people holding on to Windows computers like they need them, and then when you see how they use them, it's like, why are you putting yourself in jeopardy of viruses and all these updates and maintenance when you don't even use it but to consume? The PC is not a consumption device, it's a creation device, even the budget ones. And if all you're doing is consuming, you're just using email and Facebook, maybe you're paying some bills online, you don't need a full functioning Windows computer for that. So you're overcomplicating your life. So if you're the kind of person that doesn't like computers, if you're like, I have to use it, well, you don't have to be so inconvenienced on maintenance and upgrades by sticking with something like a Chromebook or a smartphone or tablet. But even those do need to get replaced after a period of years. But they're far less of a target for viruses and thefts. They're still targeted, but nowhere near the way Windows is. They cost less money, they're cheaper to maintain, and then all of the issues that somebody might have with Microsoft, they all go away, right? And those people should be away from Windows computers. They don't need them. They're not using them the way they're designed to be used, or at least to their full potential anyway. Let me close out camera one here so I can see what the screen says behind me. Welcome to Teams. Oh, goody. Just what I wanted. Let's close that out. And let's go back to Windows Update. We should see the option for grabbing 23H2 and then 24H2. Now, we could choose to just download Windows 24H2 for free from Microsoft to make our own flash drive and just reinstall. It could probably be faster. But then we're going to have to put all the drivers back on. And for most people, most end users, that's the part that's intimidating. And I understand drivers, we get so spoiled that so many drivers get installed automatically during our Windows install that people have never learned how to do it because they've never needed it. So, you know, we can take a moment now and back up the drivers we have onto a flash drive. You don't need any software for that. And I've got a video that shows you how to do it in like 2 minutes. And then once you have your drivers backed up, then you can wipe and reinstall Windows 11 Pro 24H2. You do not need a product key. You simply install, when it's asked what version of Windows, put the same version back on. Is it Windows 11 Home or is it Windows 11 Pro? If it's Pro, put Pro back on. When it asks for a product key, say you don't have one. As soon as you're done installing and you go to Windows Update for the first time, Microsoft says, I recognize the serial number of your motherboard was already activated before with Windows 11 Pro. It reassigns the product key back to you and reactivates. It doesn't even tell you it did it. It just happens automatically. So you don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. You don't need a Microsoft account for that either. So it's not a big deal. And then you could take your drivers you backed up from before you wiped it and then just go in your device manager and restore those drivers right back. And it might take ultimately far less time than what we're doing now. On the other hand, if this machine was purchased, say, 2 years ago, you would have done this over the last 2 years. Naturally, you would have upgraded, and then another update would have come out, and you would have, right? And so because we don't have, we're jumping ahead 2 years, essentially, we have 2 years of updates to get caught up on, and it's up to you to decide if you should just start over or just do the updates all together that would have happened naturally over time. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It's going to give you the same result one way or the other. But these are options for you to consider. Now, it is concerning to me that we're not getting offered any more updates. Let me just take a quick look over here. I have to go full screen and see what the details are. Okay, we got a Defender, Let's right click, go to System. Let me just verify. Yeah, 22H2 is very old. So here's another thing that you could do. There's a third option, and that third option would be we open up our browser. And remember, we've never opened this browser before, so you know, Microsoft Edge is going to come up and ask us a bunch of questions that personally I find annoying because I do it all the time. Most of you do this once and you don't have to do this again for a long time. Start without my data, uncheck this box, confirm and continue without the data. It's just a repeat. Okay, that's all done. And then I'm going to type in, just anywhere up here, I'll just type in download Windows 11. And the first link should take us to Microsoft.com. Don't just click on links, look at where they're taking you. So we're going to click that first one because it is taking us to the manufacturer. And we want the Windows 11 Installation Assistant. We're going to download that. And what this does is it'll bypass waiting for Windows updates and downloading all those Windows updates to get us up to 24H2 right now. Just skip over everything else. In order to install Windows 11, it's got to make sure your computer is Windows 11 compatible with the PC Health Check app. So we click on that. That downloads. It's very quick. It's a small app. Just click on to open it, accept the license agreement, and then hit install. Then we're going to leave that box checked to open it, and it's going to tell us we are Windows 11 compliant. Check now. Watch. This PC meets all of Windows 11 requirements. Perfect. We can close this, we can close this, and we can even close this. So we just have this box. Use the PC Health Check. We just did. So refresh now that we have results and accept and install. And now we're getting 24H2. We're going to skip right over 23H2 plus whatever updates 23H2 had between when it came out and when 24H2 came out. Once 24H2 is installed, we'll also check for updates after 24H2. That's why I say this can be a very time-consuming process, and to plan accordingly for any brand new computer that you buy, this is to be expected. But to what level, it just depends on what machine you're buying and how the manufacturer has configured it. For some, you can go back a ways, like 22H2. For others, there's very few updates. There's no set thing other than to check it yourself and make sure you're up to date. Now, if you didn't know anything about 22H2, 23H2, you didn't know what any of this meant, all you know is you went to Windows Update and it said there were no more updates, and you would then falsely assume that you're current. Well, you're not wrong. From Windows Update's perspective, it can take some time to process and put you in a queue for the big updates like the 23H2 and then later 24H2. But you will have to go to 23H2 first. Windows Update won't skip over it. And it will do that when it's ready. So from Microsoft's perspective, you're fine for today, but you're not up to date. But Microsoft doesn't really, they're not clear in that. When you check for updates, it just says, hey, there's no more. But I promise you there's more. They're just not ready to present them, and I don't know why. So if you're anxious like me and you just want to get it done, as I mentioned, I do this for my clients. If a client ordered this computer from me, or ordered this computer and then asked me to set it up, this is what I get paid to do. So when I deliver the computer, the client just needs to do nothing other than, we get their software, their printer, their email, whatever set up, and they're good to go. And then I turn automatic updates on, so any future updates will apply automatically, so even the customer doesn't get bothered then. They'll just get a notification that pops up that says your PC needs to restart, and you don't have to do it right this second, but whenever it's convenient for you, as soon as possible. So whatever you're doing, whenever you're done doing it, go ahead and restart the computer, and that way these updates that we've downloaded will apply. It's also a good idea for a customer to restart the computer at least once a week anyway, if they're normally leaving it on. Or if they're done for the day and they shut it off, there's an option to update and shut off that will appear. So in either way, the customer is not in any way hindered in the way that I'm demonstrating to you right now. And that's why, partly why I get paid to do what I do, so that I deal with things the customers don't have to. Thomas MacT says, hello, everyone. Welcome in, Thomas. Nikki Duncan says, hey, Carey, always dig the content you provide. Keep it up. What are some settings in Windows 11 should I optimize my OS for recording music? I think the best thing you can do is leave it alone, honestly. The optimization is tuned precisely by engineers to fit all scenarios. And the minute you start overthinking or outthinking if you think you can outthink those engineers, there's usually long-term consequences that will rear their ugly head in time that would not have happened had you left it alone. So at what cost? If I were to tell you some things you could optimize to make it better for recording, what I'm not telling you is what could happen in the future, because I don't have a crystal ball, that is directly impacted because you made those changes. So if you do what everybody else does, in the sense of leaving the computer as default as possible, besides some personal preferences, it makes it a lot easier to set you up with another computer without all those customizations having to be dragged over. It's a pain in the butt. It also ties you to the computer, which makes you more reluctant to want to replace it or upgrade it, which is also a detriment to you, in my opinion, because you're going to hold yourself back. You're going to say, oh, well, I don't want to go to a new machine. I have to put all my software on it. Well, you shouldn't have put it in that position to begin with, or especially if there were a bunch of customizations that you did that you feel you needed. You should not need them. And that might have been something we did many years ago in older versions of Windows, but these days, these machines are so powerful, even a budget mid-range PC like this should handle any music recording. In fact, I would suggest to you, as I do to my customers, which is, what problem are you having with recording? Let's start there. Then we can talk about how to address it. But if what you're trying to do is avoid a problem you've never had, and you likely never will, but you want to put something in to ensure that you won't, is almost a guaranteed way that you're going to have a problem. So we deal with symptoms. Hey, doc, can you prescribe me some medication in case I get this disease? No. Generally speaking, unless it's a vaccine, there is no medication that they're going to give you in anticipation of you getting a disease. Well, let's go ahead and get the chemo done now before I have cancer. No. We wait for symptoms and we address symptoms. If you're having no symptoms, there's nothing to fix. So we'd love to help you with any issues that you're currently experiencing. And if you are experiencing some, please explain to us what they are, and then we can be much more helpful to you. Let me grab a cold Gatorade while we're waiting. And again, I encourage you to ask questions, and thank you for participating and interacting with us. I do appreciate the interaction. We're about 10 minutes away from being on for 2 hours, and I think our timing is going to be pretty good on this. I can still run Crystal Dismark, and we can still, have some time to open the bottom of this. I don't think we're going to see anything special here. It's 2 DDR4 sockets, a socketable Wi-Fi, and a socketable NVMe, and the bottom can hold a 2.5-inch drive. And even though it can, I strongly recommend you don't do that. Use external USB drives. It's much ultimately cheaper, reduces heat, and if anything should happen, it gives you the ability to move your data over to another machine in such an emergency, instead of having to operate on the computer to extract the internal drive from it. So again, it's all about efficiency, cost, and convenience. And by installing the drive in there, you're just adding more heat and you're adding more complexity if there's a problem. And if you want to do that, it's fully capable, and that's why they include the cable, but you shouldn't. I just don't think it makes good sense financially or time-wise to go through the effort where you could just plug something in instead. Plug it in without opening it up. Oh, let me check the phone also while we're waiting. Hey, that's me. I brought up my own video. Okay, I don't think I have missed anything. Sometimes during the live broadcast, people will send gift cards, Amazon gift cards, or PayPal contributions, and if I'm not looking at the phone, I don't see it, and then I feel terrible after the show that I didn't get an opportunity to say thanks. So I do like to check it periodically for that reason. But I want to remind you, we have our forums now open, thanks to Mara, and those forums, we encourage all of you to go ahead and create a free account and to continue any dialogue of what interests you or to tell us about yourself. Then in the forums, there is no expense. What did you do?
It's cold one.
I already grabbed one. You didn't see
me.
Did?
I guess there's a delay. Apologies, I'll put it back.
No, I appreciate the thoughtfulness. Service is way slow here. I was able to go get it myself the time it took you to do it. Jeez, take that out of your tip. Yeah, see if that ever happens again. OldMan55 says a 1250p CPU is very close to a 13500H in performance. That's probably true. But OldMan55, where are you in performance compared to a 1250p or a 13500H? In my experience, it's usually the end user, and it's not meant as an insult, it's just an observation. You know, you're only going to type so fast. You're only going to click and process what you're seeing on the screen at your own speed. In most cases, in the last 15 years, computers are the ones waiting on the end user. There are some use case scenarios of some pretty resource-intensive programs that some, and very few people actually use, that create a load on the system outside of benchmarking. But those are the exceptions, but that's just not the general way. And I can tell you, because I'm the one who does the service for clients, and I've had a handful of clients that have really demanding resource needs. Most clients, and when I say most, I mean 98% or better, they just need a capable machine. Anything capable, anything above capable is not noticed by the client other than the price they're paying for it. And that is something the clients all notice universally. So why sell them more than they need? At the same time, we don't want to undersell them so they're in a position in a year or two where the machine is now not performing to their needs. So that's why we talk about this big wide middle, which is where this fits. I just can't believe a $500 machine is under $300. Just a couple weeks ago, this was like $379. This model right in front of you. That's now $299. I don't know why. That's a pretty significant price shift. But at $379, this is a $479 config all day long, or at least $450. And then when you throw sales tax on that, you're at $500. So the kudos to Minisforum at being able to bring this down to $399, because I think that's a real benefit to the viewers and the customers who see the value of this. And further, if you don't need that full 1 terabyte, like I talked about with the Dell XPS 13 that's 8 years old, it has less than 100 gigs of data on it. With this, you may not need a full terabyte. You might just want to save the 20 bucks, go to the 500 gig version at $279. That's crazy cheap. Plus, when you're buying it from Amazon, there may be an option for overnight delivery, included if you're a Prime member, and you have 30 days to return it for any reason. You don't even need a reason, just because Amazon will take it back. So you have all that peace of mind so you can have personal experience with it, decide if you like it. And then, of course, if you do buy one, we'd love to hear about your thoughts. Whether it's here in the live chat or in our new forums, tell us about your experience. And I will say, before you determine anything is bad or not working or junk, especially if it's something I've shown here, ask us first. Just say, hey, are you coming to the same conclusion I am? It doesn't cost you anything. I mean, unless you're right up against your 30-day window, you have time, because there might be something we point out that you didn't realize that completely changes your mind, and that your previous conclusion was not accurate. On the other hand, it's also possible we agree with you. Yes, sounds like you've got a bad unit, or there's a good reason to return it. But in either case, whether we agree with you or not, it's so that we're trying to offer you a second opinion for free. For free. Not trying to show how you might have made a bad decision, that you're missing the point. We're just trying to get another set of eyes on it who's not biased or has the anxiety that somebody else might have, just to see if the conclusions are still line up or not. You might find out something you thought you were going to like that you don't like becomes something you like again once you realize. I'll give you an example. I bought a snowball desktop microphone, and the audio on it was terrible. And when you take it out of the box, you put the microphone into the stand, and I got the knobs facing me, right? And I'm talking and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, this thing sounds terrible. I'm turning the knobs to try different pickup patterns. It just sounds terrible. And yet it has all these great reviews. And I'm going to send this thing back. I don't know what these people are listening to, but this thing's terrible. Well, come to find out, the buttons aren't supposed to face me. I don't know why, but they're supposed to go in the back. And I was talking into the back of the microphone, but the front and back of the microphone are exactly the same, except for those buttons, the dials. So I turned it around the other way with the dials. Now I can't see the dials, okay? And I talk into it. It sounds fantastic, and now I see where everybody likes it. And sometimes you need another set of eyes to point things out like this. We all do it. We get anxious and we're excited. It's something new that arrives. And, I don't know that design is still the same today, or if I'm not remembering it correctly. Maybe it was the other way around. Maybe I don't know why I would have put the dial. To me, the dial should go in the front, right? But regardless, the idea is that we're trying to help, not trying to make anybody feel bad. We're also trying to save you the trouble and the emotional state of, feeling like you got taken to the cleaners, I got ripped off, or this thing's broken and it sucks. Maybe not. And those forums are a great place, along with our live chat, of course. Forums available 24/7. You don't have to wait for a live video or worry if I'm going to see your comment when we have 400 or 500 people watching. It's an open invitation. Whether or not you choose to accept it is up to you. But we'd very much enjoy helping people. What are the new forums? Well, since we're waiting, I can show them again if you missed it earlier in the broadcast. We have, and the link again is in the video description below the video. Right here, if I bring up my oh, that's the close-up camera. Where is it? It's right here. That is the forum. Bear with me. There's a lot of options on OBS. We have so many inputs running right now. Yes, CareyHolzman.boards.net is the name of the forum. And again, a direct link in the video description below the video. And when you first go to this website, it's going to look like this. Click on General Discussion. What I'd like you to do is go over here and register your free account. This is all free. We have no intention of ever charging anything for this. And as long as it's not getting abused by people and spammers and bots, we'll keep it open. That's really the main thing, is we're trying to have a genuine safe space here. But once you've created a free login account, then log in and join in our discussions or create a new discussion topic. And this is all thanks to Mara, who set all this up just the other day. And you can see plenty of people are already jumped in here. And we're super excited and really looking forward to engaging with you on a level where it's much easier to see you, because the messages aren't going anywhere, versus the live messages, they flow pretty quickly, right? So I can miss a lot. But here, I shouldn't be able to miss anything. Everything's in there, and it's a much different pace. So if you find that to be more appealing as a way of seeking help or getting my attention, that's an option for you. Or even just to engage with each other, which is really the main thing I want to see, apart from helping people, is just you guys interacting with one another. Right. Old Man 55 says, I haven't found anything that I do on my Geekom IT13 that it couldn't handle. Passmark info shows not much difference, and it's $150 cheaper to what I paid months ago. Says the only thing I'm missing is a USB port, USB 4 port if needed. That's just about speed, right? That's if you're saying it's not fast enough. But my question to you is just how much data are you moving, how often, to justify that expense? Even if you had a USB 4 port, you'd be paying a lot more for a USB 4 storage device that you would plug into it. I just can't imagine what other point it would have, but you know, to each his own, I suppose. Jim says that's interesting, not Discord. We've had a really bad experience with Discord with abuse. So Discord for us is a little too pedestrian. It's sort of like what everybody else does. If there's one thing you'll know about me, it's that if everybody else is doing something, I don't want to do it. That is a big red flag in my world. So if I see a bunch of people all going to the left, I'll go to the right. Because it's instinctive in me to avoid common mob mentality. And while we did have some experimentation, we did try Discord, it didn't last very long. Just a couple days we had to shut it down. It got so out of control. It was really bad. Now it's possible Discord's gotten better, but at the same time, I think the forums are just a much more convenient way, right? We're not having people have audio dialogue back and forth, and we're not requiring, you know, any special apps or anything. Anybody on any platform can join it very easily without any prior Discord experience. Just forums have been around since, well, more or less since the day of the internet, honestly, when it was all just news groups initially before the World Wide Web. So we go back to basics with it, keep it simple. And I think the barrier to entry then is then not relegated only to people who are familiar with how Discord works, but instead more familiar in the sense of forums, because forums have been a part of the internet pretty much, like I say, since before the World Wide Web anyway, and remain so to this day. Discord may be something that comes and goes, right? Like ICQ or other trendy communications methods. And others, like news groups and forums, they just tend to last longer. They tend to be more timeless. So if our experience with Discord was a more positive one, I'd probably have a better attitude towards it. But for that reason, I am personally opposed to Discord. And you don't often ever find me in a Discord server, ever. I find the whole process unpleasant. But that's just me. Mark Liebowitz said, I just joined the forum. It took less than 5 minutes. And did you have to give up your credit card number? Oh, it is easy. Just try to keep it to the basics. That's all. Paul House says hello. Bill Stott says Prodigy. Hey, you know, there is a new AOL desktop. I don't know anybody would use it. But yeah, for 2025. AOL. Paul Howe said he got the Minisforum 795S7, the Mini ITX with the RTX 4060 today. He's not yet set it up. It's definitely one of my favorites that Minisforum has come out with. And you'll have to let us know, share your experience with us. What do you think of it? What do you like or dislike about it? The only thing I dislike about it is I don't have any place to really set it to use it. I don't have any need for it. I wish I did. I would love to use it. I really would. It is definitely one of my favorite Minisforum releases of 2024. And to this day, obviously. It came out in late last year, and it's still a new model. And it's just, you know, it's a more of like a 7-liter design versus the smaller machines that aren't as upgradable, and you know, you can put a low profile RTX 4060 in it. Seats in there, no problems, no heat issues. Yeah. Minisforum is supposed to be coming out with an MSA2, because whenever I go over here and I grab my little MSO1, you know, whenever there's an example I want to give and I need a desktop, I grab for this. This is the Intel-based Minisforum MS01. And they came out with an AMD version of this that uses an AMD desktop CPU, the A1. And now at CES, Minisforum showed off the A2, the A being AMD, and it's supposed to blow everything out of the water. So hopefully we'll get our hands on one of those, as well as the new AI-X1, I think it's called, which is somewhere in between. It's a little bigger than this, well, much bigger, and much more powerful. But again, for regular home users, unless you're doing things that are doing your own AI stuff, creating your own large language models or whatever, probably not necessary for most people, maybe a bit overkill. Me wanting to introduce my audience to every option to consider, I'm very much looking forward to reviewing it, because it seems like a very unique design. It's not just another square box. A lot of these Minisforum mini PCs and other mini PCs all look like they share the same case, right? Nothing special to look at. Although, you know, the world's changed a lot. No one ever cared what their machine looked like. Everybody cared what it could do. Now, with RGB and liquid cooling and all these aesthetics, people care, in many cases, more about how it looks than how it performs. And I know that because I can go to Facebook Marketplace and look up a gaming PC and find people selling 6th generation Intels for $1,000 that were gaming PCs when they came out 10 years ago or more. And they're still wanting over, in my opinion, way too much money for them. And you'll see it on eBay. And I guess the idea is that either the seller really doesn't have any idea what it's worth, or they know exactly what it's worth and they're hoping the buyer doesn't. Just trying to take advantage of somebody knowingly and willfully who's never wronged them. And it's really hard to criticize somebody for defining a gaming computer, since gaming doesn't have any single definition and it changes over time. So what was considered a gaming computer 10 years ago, by today's standards of gaming, wouldn't comply. It wouldn't fit the same definition. But does that mean it never was a gaming computer? So does that mean the seller is lying? The seller's telling you the truth. It was a gaming PC from 10 years ago, but it just says gaming PC, and it's got a gaming PC price on it, which might make you feel like you're getting a good deal. And you've got something that's not Windows 11 compatible that really should be running an alternate operating system or be put to a recycle bin. But that's the cost of a lack of education. If you think going to school and paying for school was expensive, the alternative is way more expensive. At least it can be. Phil Stodd said, I'm still more concerned with what my computer will do over what it looks like. This is a generational thing. The people who care more about what it looks like are generally the younger kids. And they're okay with spending, say, $600 on a gaming PC as long as it looks cool. But any computer that's $600 to me is not a gaming PC, just by very definition, that a GPU in and of itself can be starting at $600 and go up from there. Then you have to put that into a computer at least around an $800 computer upwards to $2,000. When you add those two numbers together, you're somewhere between $1,800 to $3,200 for what I would call a gaming computer. But again, gaming has a lot of different definitions depending on what the game is, what the style or genre, from esports to first-person shooters and RPGs or MMORPGs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there's so many different categories. Flight sims. But I find the most offensive offers are on Facebook Marketplace. It's like there's such a disconnect from reality. I don't know who's buying this stuff. For all I know, nobody is. Maybe they're just listing it for years and just takes one buyer one time and get rid of it. Jim says it's worse on Craigslist. Yeah, well, that's probably true. Paul Howe says he's going to keep me informed on his new Minisforum there. He says it's very heavy. He says, I intend to get my main computer off the floor so I can work on it easier. Yeah, I mean, for as little, I mean, the Minisforum, that 790, I've got one over here just to show you since we're waiting. It's not heavy. It's just for its size, it weighs more than it looks like it would weigh. Or if you're comparing it to a mini PC, it's much, much heavier. But it's nowhere near the heft of a full-size desktop. Yeah, I'm just picking this up with one hand. It's maybe 12 pounds, maybe as much as 15, 12 to 15. I'm gonna rest on 12. But remember, we've got the weight of that RTX 4060 in there. But this is what we're talking about, in case you're wondering. And I absolutely love this little guy. The Minisforum, the 795 S7. See, I've got all the documentation, power cable. Let's go full screen here so I can give you a nice big view of this. In fact, we could probably even go to the close-up camera. Maybe. And, you know, you can see the size difference there between the Mini and this little Mini ITX build, essentially. Power supply is there. All of your inputs, video outputs, plus our RTX 4060 graphics card seated here. It's a nice little package. It's got rubber feet on the bottom, so it's intended to be upright. I suppose you could set it this way, except your air vents are down there. See, the top of it doesn't, the top of it, in theory, would be the part you'd want down if you wanted it to be able to breathe, but that would have your Minisforum upside down. It'll work in any orientation you place it in, but preferably you're not going to block the vents in the front or on this side right here. For that reason, those rubber feet are vertical or placed in the position where the machine is vertical, and then your power button then is located up top. We did a review on this, and I would encourage you to go back and take a look at that for the overall familiarity of the machine and how it's equipped. You even have a USB Type-C back here too. I don't know how well you can pick that up, but right. Ugh, it's so small, I can't even see it. Right there. So, yeah. And in the front as well, USB Type-C and Type-A. Type-C, Type-A, audio, reset, power. It's a great design. This is basically the way Intel was making the Nooks towards the end there. At Nook Extremes, this is like a Nook Extreme level of build, except it's AMD. All right, let me move that aside. I do want to bring this back up on the bench and revisit it in more in-depth reviews or use case scenarios to show you how it performs. It's fantastic. And the fact that it's this light and it's very affordable. Like if you compare that to a traditional desktop and what you get for the money, it's a great value for everything you're getting. But I think that's true of all the Minisforum. It's when you get into the Atom Man lineup that things get excessive power, excessive pricing that can go along with that. But still nowhere near what Apple Computer would charge you. See how we're doing here. Oh good, we're ready to restart. And that's going to give us 24H2, which again, a little bit more controlled, faster, not using your internet as much by just jumping right to 24H2. If it was 23H2, I'd just do it through Windows Update. But with 24H2, it becomes more of a, you know, it's a massive update to go from 22 to 23, then to 24, each one of those. So if we can skip over one, it saves a lot of bandwidth and time. Now I told it to restart. I don't know why it's not restarting, other than sometimes Windows 11 24H2 is processing something in the background, or I did it so quickly I wasn't paying attention to clicking to restart now or later. So we can go over here to the power button icon, choose restart, and that should kick off the finalizing of the updates here. So we should see, as it reboots, we should see the, you know, updating Windows thing come up. Turns itself back on here, and at that point, like I said, we can run Crystal Disk Mark on it and take a look at the performance. There it is, the Windows Update process. That's going to take a few minutes with a big 24H2 update. Becca Cameron says he just joined the forums. Right on. That's awesome. I hope you guys watching the video will pop into the forums and say hello and introduce yourselves. If you feel like it, you know, let us know when did you become interested in computers, and how comfortable are you with computers? Or do you feel you're the guy people, or the person people go to for help, or are you the one looking for help, right? We'd like to get to know you better, and that's a great way where we get to know each other better. Not only me and you, but you and other members of our community. You guys could be neighbors and don't even realize it. Edward said, I have a PC with 4K output, 60 hertz out. I have a 14th Gen i7. What do I gain with a gaming PC? Well, you gain the ability to play certain games at certain resolutions, and it depends on the game. So for you, it could be nothing, or it could be a lot, depending on the graphics card in the game and the settings of the game itself. You might want a 144 hertz screen. You know, could be quite demanding. If you have the budget for it and you can afford it, you can be as demanding as you want. Where I get frustrated a lot of times, if you look at the people who are asking for help, they're usually trying to keep an old piece of equipment alive. So if you go on Reddit, or generally forums where people say, I'm having some trouble with something, it's usually something really old that should have been replaced. And this logic that, one, I can't afford it. Well, if you can't afford it, it must be a novelty for you, right? It must not be a really important tool, or you would prioritize it higher up in your budget. You'd find a way to put something on layaway, even something basic by today's standards, and you would avoid all of these problems. But the idea is that, well, it's always worked, but now it's having, yes, that's how computers age. They start by having problems. By the way, people age the same way. You could go your whole life without any medical conditions, and the older you get, suddenly now you've got problems you never had, and they're coming up with more frequency. The older we get, the more frequent and new problems we get. Same with a car, same with a computer. There is a time where you go, with a computer, time to replace it, or with a car, it's not worth the time and money to put into a vehicle that I'm not going to invest back. I'm not going to get a return on that investment. It's a $1,000 car. It doesn't make sense to put $1,200 into it, only so the Blue Book value stays at $1,000 regardless. At some point, you're tired of the inconvenience that it doesn't work or it's not reliable. You're tired of paying the money, and you can just get yourself something newer. It doesn't have to be brand new. You can buy off-lease computers very cheaply. You can also buy entry-level brand new N100 and N150 based computers that'll be so much faster than your old one. They can be a mini PC taking up less space, be under warranty, and with Amazon delivery, you can have it potentially overnight or within a day or two with a 30-day money-back guarantee for any reason. Why would you torture yourself for such a small amount of money? But if you look on the forums, you'll not our forums, but in general on the internet, who are the people asking for solutions to problems? What is the main group? And that main group of people asking for help are laptop owners who break hinges and spill things on their laptops, or their old machines, whether they're laptops or not, they should have been retired and replaced years ago. They absolutely refuse to let them go, and they're looking for free help. And if you want to help them, go right ahead. I'm not suggesting you shouldn't, but I get paid to do what I do, right? So it wouldn't make sense for a customer to call me and pay me for my time more than it would cost to replace the machine. But if people, whatever reason they justify, they don't want to get rid of it, they're in over their head, they don't know how to fix it, they go to the internet hoping a volunteer offering free help can help them, maybe they will make it worse. I don't know. There's no guarantee, there's no peace of mind, and there's no sort of reassurance that even if it does help or fix that problem, you're just not going to have another problem in a week or two. So for those reasons, if you get something more modern, the likelihood statistically that you're going to have any issues and need any help fixing anything significantly reduced by just keeping up. All you have to do is keep up. You don't have to keep up every year. You don't have to keep up every 5 years. But I'd say when you hit about year 8, you should start thinking about it. And by the time you hit year 10, this should have already been done. You should have already gotten some replacement or upgrade in place. But if you refuse to do that under whatever logic you use, then to me, your computer is a novelty. Because if it was really important to you, you would have found a way. That's it. Your actions are going to speak much louder than the words. Even people who claim there's no way I can afford it, always find a way to afford the things they really need in their life. It's amazing how that works. And maybe you're going to have to squirrel away for a couple of months. Maybe you're going to have to make a sacrifice and exercise a little self-discipline. And maybe you're somebody who doesn't. At the end of the day, that shows me where the priorities are. So for that reason, I don't necessarily buy into the stories I hear from clients who are like, there's nothing I can do. No, it's not true. That's a problem up here. I can't fix that. But set your expectations accordingly is all I'm trying to say. You don't have to have the latest and greatest all the time, but you should have something current. Unless it's just a novelty. If it's a novelty, whatever, that's, it's a different game altogether. Planet Cryos with a $5 super chat. Would you ever consider doing a members only show with maybe 1 or 2 of us live with you part of the time? Oh, you mean like joining me on, is like having members join me on like a Zoom call? Yeah, I mean, that invitation's always open. If anybody wants to join me over a Zoom call and a members only, if you're a member and we're making a members only video, I think other members would want to get to know you. Absolutely. That's a great idea. In fact, the only reason I've never made the offer is I never really thought about it. But if anybody would have asked, the answer would have been yes this whole time, for sure. And it doesn't have to be the whole show. We could, segment 20 minutes to it or something and give everybody a chance, or move on to other things for people who aren't interested. But I think most members are going to be interested in learning more about other members. That's the whole point of the community. So great idea. And the short answer is yes. And thank you for the super chat and for mentioning it, planting that seed, not only for me, but for all of the members. How many members would be interested in joining us on camera for a few minutes on a members only video? Gios J86 says, Tech TV got me into computers. I really missed that show. Yeah, Tech TV was great, wasn't it? Leo Laporte and Kevin Rose and Alex Albrecht and Martin Sargent, Sarah. Why didn't I remember Sarah's name? Will Wheaton was on there a few times. Will Wheaton's a great guy. I had the honor of interviewing him a couple times on the radio program, and he doesn't just play a nerd on TV. He is one in real life. There was also Chris Perilla. Where did he ever go? Perillo? But Alex Albrecht and Kevin Rose, you know, they created this podcast that was based on Kevin Rose's Dig Nation thing where people voted news up. Kevin made a lot of money at that. Way more than he ever made on TV. And Alex, I'm trying to think what Alex did, but Kevin and Alex did a podcast called Dig Nation, and then they stopped doing it for about 20 years, and they're back doing it again, just in case you didn't know. If you're a fan of those Tech TV days, and you remember Kevin Rose and Alex Albrecht, they're 20 years older, maybe a little bit more than that, and it's very nostalgic seeing them hang out and talk tech stuff. They're just sitting on a couch with their laptops talking about the news. You know, they're not techs. Kevin Rose is more of a developer than a tech, and Alex is more of a personality, I think. I'm trying to remember if I got to interview Alex. I really, you know, that whole crew, everybody on Tech TV, was definitely something that I aspired to. I said, oh, I could do that someday. Being part of the Screensavers or many of the little shows they had. Yeah, I don't understand how that wasn't financially feasible, that they, you know, became, they went from what, ZDTV to G4 and then shut down. Because I think there's enough interest there, but maybe the production costs are just too high with the crew and everything. But if there was a TV network dedicated to computer stuff, you know I'd be subscribed to it for sure. But now we have YouTube, I guess. Yeah, Leo says Tech TV, and Ask Leo got him started. You know, Leo is 68 years old, and he's still doing it. I mean, that's impressive. 68 years old, and he's still making broadcasts, digital broadcasts of talking with other experts like Paul Thoreau and others about the latest in tech and tech-related stuff. He's right there on it. 68. Still doing it. There's hope for me yet. Bill says, Carey, I listen on an old smart TV, no chat. I would like to do a Zoom call. That would be fun. Great. Yeah, we'd love to have you. It'd be great to see a face and hear a voice, you know, to pair it with the name in the chat. Planet Cryo said I'd do it a few part of the time, but I work on Mondays, so it would have to be a Monday I take off in the future sometime. Yeah, or we could even pre-record something that we could play back as long as it was, you know, 5 or 10 minutes. Because then whenever I pre-record something, it's sort of like the audience can't interact or ask any questions because it already happened. But, you know, for a how do you do and an introduction and a little bit of, you know, discussion, we could make that work too. Phil Stodd said he was queried by the IT manager at the company he works at about possible replacements for the people they have on the road using laptops, company-provided laptops. Those laptops, he says, that they're currently using are Dell Toughbooks that are 6th generation Intels. Well, you got till October 14th, I suppose. Well, just because support ends on October 15th doesn't mean Windows 10 will stop working, but it'll become less secure every month. Well, every day, but every month especially. I would definitely say by January 1st, 2026, nobody should be using Windows 10 unless you have an extended support contract or you don't care about your identity and you don't take security seriously. Thieves love you for that, by the way. They love that you would oversimplify how dangerous the internet is, so you will be so woefully unprepared you won't even realize it happened until long after it's already happened. I just shake my head because it's so avoidable, and people just, like, if deniability actually prevented things from happening, I'd be all about it, okay? But deniability doesn't prevent the events from occurring. It's being proactive and making sure you're keeping yourself secure when you're connecting to the worldwide internet, which is connecting to every computer in existence on the planet. And you don't know the people on the other end that are, what their motivations are and what their skills are. But if they're highly motivated and more skilled than you are, they're going to take everything from you and you won't even know what happened. Like a pickpocket, you get bumped into by somebody, you don't think anything of it, and then a few minutes later you realize your wallet's gone. It's just that clever. And the best thing you can do is be prepared. If the way you prepare is to say, well, that's never going to happen, well, good luck with that. I don't know what else to say. I hope you're right. Let's go back over to the desktop here and go back to Windows Update. Or first, let me just verify if I go to the system properties that we do have 24H2. Yes, we do. And before I take this much further, let me grab my utilities flash drive here. Utilities. And this is a fast flash drive, so I want to plug it into a fast port in order to utilize my purchase. It's like buying a fast car, but you never take it on a freeway. You can never really open it up. Let's go turn off camera 1 again for a second. We go full screen over here so I can see it the way you guys at home see it. Okay, there's my flash drive. And there's a few things I'll copy over, such as, you know, I'll install VLC because I like that as the media player, and uninstall Microsoft's junk. For PC testing, I like CPU-Z, Crystal Disk Mark Portable, hardware info. This is version 8.10. I haven't checked that in a while. There might be a newer version. Cinebench, which really, you know, I don't think it's fair to run Cinebench on a mini PC. It's, I don't know, it's just not designed for that kind of a workload, but we can try it just to see what happens. But if you're running that kind of a workload, you shouldn't be buying this level of mini PC anyway. It's just, you're underbuying for your needs. But out of curiosity, you know, check it out. The driver backup I talked about, these are the instructions on how to just back up your own drivers and put them away somewhere in case you ever have to do a reinstall. You don't need any third-party software. It's all built into Windows. Power is in your hands. And we have videos that walk you through that whole thing. And then down here, Uncle Carey's Windows 10 Optimizer, I'll use on Windows 11. It works fine. The 24H2 fixes are the security fixes for networking. That, again, is not Microsoft being evil. They're trying to protect you. And I think that's all I need from there. If I go to, well, first of all, let's go ahead and unplug the flash drive. I think we're done with that. And we'll run Crystal Disk Mark because I'm curious. Let me get rid of this. Wait a minute, let me look. I see an exclamation point here. Yeah, it wants me to sign in with the Microsoft account. No, thank you. Okay, now we're happy. over to Crystal Disk Mark, and I'm expecting about 5,000 megabytes per second out of a Gen 4 Kingston drive. Let's see what we get. We'll just go ahead and run that. And again, while that runs, I can go back over to the chat room and speak with you guys while we wait. Yeah, 4,500. I mean, that's a little slower than I'm expecting. That number still might go up. That test is not complete yet. But it's over 4,000. That's my main concern. It should be closer to 5, but we're more than halfway there as far as rounding up goes. And again, you can take the NVMe out and replace it real easily. The 4 rubber feet come off, the bottom opens up. It's all right there. But if you're going to put a faster drive in, you will be adding more heat. And if the heat builds up, the drive will run slower, negating the whole point of the upgrade. Jim KJ3N says even a 6th gen gaming laptop should be retired at this point. Heck, if you put away $20 a week for 40 weeks, you'd have $800. The problem is for some people, $20 a week is, they don't have $20. They might have $20 a month, right? You know, someone might reach out and say, you know, after my budget, I only have $30 left at the end of the month, so I can't afford whatever. It's like, well, what have you been doing the last few months with that extra $30? Haven't you already started squirreling it away? Where has it been going? So if you want it bad enough, you'll find a way to make it happen. If it's a toy, if it's a novelty, you'll take it or leave it. And you'll justify perhaps by saying it's important, but actually not making any sacrifice for it. If you're not willing to sacrifice for it, it's just not that important. And it doesn't have to be a massive sacrifice. It's a little one. Whether it's a sacrifice financially or a sacrifice over time, it's still not much. For what you're getting for today's dollar compared to what computers used to cost, they're almost, I don't know at what point the world's ever going to get that they're going to pay you to have one, okay? But I don't think it's ever going to happen. And if the profit margin is so slim that a company can't make ends meet, then this problem solves itself when they're no longer available for sale. And everybody then just goes to smartphones and tablets, which is fine too, right? As long as you're not a creator, you'd probably be just fine with a smartphone, a tablet, or even a Chromebook. They're far less expensive and far less maintenance and far less of a target for viruses. Just because you have a PC doesn't mean you need one. Okay, look at that. The 4,692 megabytes per second on the write, sequential writes, are faster than the reads. That's not usually the way it is. They'll typically be the same with, if either side between read and write, usually writes are a little slower, or sometimes much slower depending on the NVMe. This is perfectly acceptable for this range of a computer at this price point. I don't see anything wrong with that. And even if I got to 5,000 on that, we're talking literally milliseconds of difference that a human being wouldn't be able to notice outside of benchmarks. So we get caught up looking at benchmark numbers instead of reality. The question is, will the machine perform the things you want it to do? Does it do it quietly? Or does it do it with a noise ratio that you find acceptable or unacceptable? When you click the mouse, is it responsive? How does that machine feel? How does it sound? These benchmarks can't really tell you that. You have to experience it in your own unique environment to your own unique expectations for your own unique uses. I can't, nor can anybody, unless they know you really well and where you live, predict the outcome of that. And that's why it's so important that I encourage people that if you have the interest and you wonder, how would this be for me? Buy the darn thing. Amazon's got 30-day returns. If $300 is too much, Amazon has layaway. And then when you pay for it, they'll ship it to you. So you get something. There's lots of solutions, including buying off-lease computers, or even visiting a local Goodwill store might have something. In fact, I think Mara and I are going to hit a local Goodwill just to see what's there. It could be fine if it's an older machine for just tearing it apart without any worry of, oh, I hope I don't break it. versus there might be something Windows 11 compatible for $40 or something for all we know. Until you look, inventory at these places changes on a regular basis, and you may even have a regular recycler near you. If you've never Googled for it, you wouldn't even know. So again, if something's important, people will find a way to make that happen. There's our final numbers on Crystal Disk Mark. And let me see here. That off for a second. And I'll save these results. Now, some people might say, well, how does it game? Well, it depends on the game. Bottom line. And what games you play, there's so many thousands and thousands and thousands of games. For me to demonstrate any is sort of pointless. It's not sold as a gaming machine. This is really sold to be used for pretty much anything else, right? You can do video editing on this. You can do photo editing on this. I can even stream. If I want to, I can stream from this. It's very easy and very capable. All I would do is take something like my EVGA XR1, which is a pretty inexpensive USB capture device, plug my camera into it, or take a webcam and plug a webcam into it, download the free OBS software, and I'm broadcasting live on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook, like that. There'll be no hesitation from the machine. That's easy stuff for a modern day computer, even an i5. Heck, even an N100 will do it. Now, the minute we start getting gaming at the same time, and now we need twice as much power and a lot more resources and higher bandwidth from your internet service provider, then it's a whole different ballgame, right? But for doing what I'm doing right now, just capturing the desktop and video, that can be done with a screen capture and a single capture card. You can emulate this. I have some fancy cameras that work better in low light since we're indoors. If I was shooting outdoors, a cheap camera would look great. I have an expensive wireless microphone system, but you could also just use your phone's microphone, or you can use the microphone built into the unit and clean it up in OBS to make it much clearer. It's how much work you want to put into it and how much you want to play versus how important I suppose it is to you. Could be a fun little thing to play with, but you don't need any special hardware in that regard. You could just open up your phone or tablet right now and start streaming with the built-in camera, the built-in microphone, and with the YouTube app, you don't need OBS. You would just do it right from the YouTube app on your phone or tablet, whether it's Mac or Android, doesn't matter. So lots of different ways, depending on how complex and technical you want your video to be. As for opening this up, let's do that real quick and we'll wrap up today's video. Let me close out camera 2. No, wait, let me hold on a second. Let me put that back. I didn't mean to do that. Up here, and then turn that off, and then shut this off. There we go. And then go back to camera 1. And somehow I've got the widescreen and the zoom screen at the same time. Okay, let me go full screen on camera 1. There we go. Nope, that was full screen for me, not you. Hold on. Just Control F, Carey. Control F. There we go. Now, with the machine off, unplug power. That's the most important first step anytime you're going to work on the computer. I don't care if it's a desktop, a laptop, mini, always the same. We can go to that close-up camera if you want to see the bottom here. These 4 rubber feet, they're going to be held on with an adhesive, and that drives me crazy. It's a Minisforum thing, and we keep complaining, and eventually I hope we'll be heard. But there is a screw. It may not be located directly in the middle of the foot. It may be off to the corner. It may be possible you only need to peel the foot back, yeah, to get to the screw. And if that's the case, then we can use a screwdriver kit like this one. Hold it upright. This is just purchased at a local Harbor Freight, but you can also get them on Amazon. And if we can get the screwdriver just right into the corner, then it's possible we don't have to take the whole rubber foot off. It depends on the tools you've got. But normally, if you watch anybody else's video, they're just going to take the feet off. And you'll see sometimes the adhesive sticks to the bottom, even when it's brand new. And the older the machine gets, the less likely your adhesive is going to apply back. So, plan accordingly. And I usually just use a thumb and just go for a corner. And again, when I peel up the feet, you will see some of the adhesive stays. Now, what I would prefer is the rubber foot had the corner cut off of it, say like that, so the screw hole was exposed. No one's going to see the bottom of the machine anyway. But at the same time, the rubber foot still provides an anti-scratch surface for the, whatever desk or wherever you're setting the mini PC on that could get scratched up. That's what the rubber feet are for. They also help with any sort of vibrational sounds that can occur from the fan spinning. And if you notice, when I took this foot off, when I peeled it one way, the adhesive was 100% staying on the mini PC. So I went the other way, just like peeling the label off of a shipping box. Sometimes you peel it and the label wants to immediately tear. You go to a different side of the label and then the whole label comes off, no problem. That's just adhesives, right? These are no different in the sense that they're not like the 3M command strips or something like that. They're fancy to be removed. But it's just 4 screws. It's a regular Phillips driver, really small one. This is like a number 1 Phillips here. And that first one. And you'll see these are magnetized drivers, so that way we don't lose the screws. Lose the screws. Now there is nothing here to pull up on as far as I can tell, but if you look at the color, where it's black here and black here, but silver, by the way, this is all plastic, which is good because metal might be fancier, but it interferes with your Wi-Fi and Bluetooth signal strength. It looks like this piece is all one piece and that you're not just taking the square, but you're going to take what is essentially like an L-shaped piece off. So bear that in mind. And so the question is, what's the best way to get at that? And I don't know the answer other than you can get like a spudger in here maybe. Or you can get a small flat blade driver in one of the vents. But you probably want to go to the end if you want to have greater odds of not cracking the vent. That doesn't come up at all. And then the only other thing I can think of would be to come at it like so. You'll see it, that seam starts to appear. And once you see the seam, at that point, other seams should be much more accessible to some small sort of pry tool, whether or not you use a plastic like credit card or guitar pick if you want to be really cautious so as not to scratch or gouge into the edges. It doesn't hurt anything. It just, probably the last thing you want to do to something brand new is gouge it up. If you're like most people, you wouldn't want to do that. And then this piece does lift up as I thought it might. And there is our RAM. There is our Wi-Fi, our BIOS battery, and then our M.2 drive. Now, with regards to plugging in a 2.5-inch drive, that would go underneath here. There are some plastic, little plastic walls here that would line up with the mounting holes on a 2.5-inch mechanical or solid-state drive. And then you would take the enclosed cable and screws to mount your drive inside, and then this little end of the cable will plug in probably, I'm going to guess right there, right? That's the only connector I see available, right there. I strongly advise you not to do that. There is only one M.2 slot. There is not two. This is Gen 4. And all of the specs are available on the Amazon site with regards to, you know, what USB is this? We've already mentioned it's a 2.5 gig network card. I suppose we never did look at what the Wi-Fi version was on here. I'll bring this up to the camera. Not that camera. I gotta turn on the other camera. I'll bring this up and you can get a close-up look. And then that'll wrap it up for today's show as we approach 4 o'clock here, Phoenix time, Thursday, January 16th, 2025. RAM, Wi-Fi card, NVMe drive. And if you buy a new NVMe drive, you can reuse that heatsink. It's just held on with rubber bands. Any questions? I want to move this out of the way real quick, only because I want to fire it up while the bottom is off of it here. And we can take a look at who makes the network interface adapters. What do you think?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you think about somebody like in an office, they wouldn't, most offices that I have as clients wouldn't know this apart from their desktops.
This is great for like a home office or for.
Absolutely, and you could hook it up to your television. You don't even need a monitor for it.
Right.
Just HDMI out right to your TV.
Yep.
Then you can get a wireless keyboard and mouse and lay in bed and have a Windows experience versus a Fire Stick TV, right? Which is a lot more options there.
Yeah. I would like to comment on the forum.
Oh, the forum.
Lots of people have joined, and
excellent.
And everybody is wonderful. As a matter of
Let's
fact,
keep it that way.
Yeah, there's a couple people that are doing such a wonderful job. I should make them moderators.
Oh, well, I'll leave that to your discretion.
Yeah.
What did I do with my my dongle? Did I leave it plugged in? No, it's not there. Where did I put it? Don't you hate it when you misplace your dongle? Well, that's all right. We're going to turn this on anyway, and I'll look around. It's got to be, couldn't have gone too far. Oh, that might have been that the dongle was plugged in when I was taking the plastic off, and when I pulled the plastic, that I pulled the dongle out. So you do want to unplug everything from your ports before removing the panels, because they can make removing the panels far more difficult, and I might have struggled a little harder because I think that's why my dongle was on the floor. I don't remember setting it down and knocking it over. I think I left it plugged in, and then as I was removing the panel, it got hung up on the plastic, and the plastic yanked it out. So learn by watching why you shouldn't do that, or why you should anticipate that before it happens. Let me jump over to our desktop here. Oh, and apparently I just put it to sleep. Let me wake it up. Give me just a second. I saw the power light flashing. I think I might have, when plugging in the dongle, while the machine was on, tapped the power button. One thing after another with me, I swear. All right, let's log in, and we'll go right click and full screen over here. And let's take a look in the device manager with regards to who makes these parts. Our networking parts are Intel is the i2-26, which is also the Bluetooth. So that's, you know, name brand. And MediaTek, you know, the Wi-Fi is actually really good. Wi-Fi 6 and 6E from MediaTek. I wasn't expecting 6E on 12th gen, but yeah, that's really nice that they've included it. Most people won't see any benefit above Wi-Fi 6. It would require a 6E router along with obviously a 6E wireless card. And even then, you probably won't notice any difference. But it also makes sense you wouldn't necessarily want to upgrade to Wi-Fi 7 either, because once again, for most users, other than really high demanding enthusiasts, most people would never see any difference in it between even Wi-Fi 5 and Wi-Fi 6 for that matter. But if you were going to see a difference between Wi-Fi 5 and Wi-Fi 6, you likely won't see a difference between Wi-Fi 6E and Wi-Fi 7 and Wi-Fi 6 for most people. Just most people aren't doing that kind of wireless data transfer. They're usually just like loading websites and watching videos and things like that, Netflix. You're just not going to see it. Now, if you're in a household where there's many people doing that simultaneously, well, then in that case, it could make a noticeable difference. So again, as an individual user, likely nothing you would need to spend extra on. Wouldn't necessarily hurt you other than in the wallet, but yeah. Okay, well, I want to shout out again everybody who's contributed during today's live stream, along with all of our members. You guys make these videos possible. A shout out and a thank you to the folks at Minisforum. Well, we did buy this. The folks at Minisforum have frequently collaborated and made suggestions and have sent us demo units, sample units. But not everything that we review from Minisforum is given to us, and this would be an example of that. And I think it's a solid value. I think I've made that clear. I am unbiased. I don't care what the name of it is. It's a value or it's not. If it's a name brand that I'm familiar with, that I trust, that just adds even more value, because now I've got some peace of mind that this company has a history, a verifiable history of making quality products. They're not new to this space, and they often make innovative products nobody else makes. They're not just slapping their name on something the same as other mini PC makers do. This is uniquely Minisforum. And if you understand the value of that reputation, it makes this worth even more than just some unknown brand you're buying off AliExpress or even Amazon for that matter. So keep that in mind, as well as, let's see, let me go back over this way. This page here is not keeping up. And oh, I was going to go to my, to say thank you to everybody. Planet Cryos, thank you for your super chats. Daryl Loftus became a member today. Thank you, Daryl. Welcome into membership, my friend. Peter VZ with a €1 super chat earlier. Thank you, Peter, as always. David Graham and Mark Gaines, thank you for your generous contributions today during our, in the live chat, in the super chats. Thank you for those. And again, there's Planet Cryos a couple times, 4 times in a row. Thank you, Planet Cryos. Shop Persian Rugs, I'm sorry I missed your $2 super chat much earlier. Thank you so much for your support. Of course, our friend Buster, thank you so much to our friend Buster Oystein, Paul Gray, folks like Mark Gaines and Phil Stodd, and David Stetzer, Rob Foster. These guys are some very generous members here that I would be remiss if I don't mention their names. And then I always think about somebody's name when I'm done, and I feel so terrible about it. So if I have left you out, I didn't do it on purpose. Charlie Purdy, there's another very generous member whose name I left out. Right there is an example. Thank you for your continual generosity and your super chat today. Abdul Azim Patel has been a member here a long time. Thank you so much for all of your support. Without you guys, these videos would be very different and very more infrequent. So we can't thank you enough. For everybody else in our chat, thank you for hanging out with us and interacting with us. And that kind of support is also appreciated. Do check out our forums one last time. I'll put that up on the screen here. And that is at, as soon as I find it, right here, CareyHolzman.boards.net. All free for you to sign up. Just register for your account. And it's going to look like this the first time you go there. This is what the page looks like today, January 16th, 2025. We'd love to see you in there and encourage you guys to not only talk to us, but to talk to one another. Share a little bit about yourself that you're comfortable with regarding why you're interested in PCs or maybe laptops or wireless or whatever floats your boat, and we'll find other like-minded individuals that you can explore those topics in more depth outside of our live videos. Okay. Thanks again to our friends at Acronis, RoboForm, and SCD Keys. SCD Keys is where I go to buy license keys for Windows and Office. You're saving 30% off the already discounted price. It's just for you guys, just for the viewers. If you're going to buy a license key anyway, why not buy one for less money that is guaranteed with support that it's going to work, so you have peace of mind rather than rolling the dice on some unknown website where maybe you can get a better price, but you won't get a better peace of mind or any support compared to what is absolutely set in stone with SCD Keys. I stand behind the products I endorse here, and if you have any issues with any products before concluding anything is terrible, please email us, join our forum, reach out to us, let us help and verify what's actually happening and help you get to the proper resolution if we can. But if you never offer us the opportunity, neither one of us really know. And again, if you want to reach out in email, our email address here for the channel is showcasecreate@gmail.com. If you want to reach out privately, you're certainly welcome to do that. I thank each and every one of you for hanging out with me today, and I look forward to seeing you all as I do every Friday at 1 o'clock Phoenix time. We've got a tower computer to finish building using an Intel Ultra 7, and we also have a new cooler from our friends over at Allseye. Is it any good? I don't know. Find out with me tomorrow, 1 o'clock Phoenix time. Hope to see you there. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, of course, to Mara, our channel administrator, for setting up the board. And she's the one that's going to answer all your emails. We respond to all the emails within 24 hours. So if your email is not responded to within 24 hours, you probably didn't send it to the right address, or it got caught up in our spam. In that case, let us know either in live chat or the forums, the boards, because we don't intentionally ignore anybody. So we very much look forward to hearing from you and hope you take us up on the offer. And that'll wrap it up for me for today. Until tomorrow, bye for now.